We are your home theater and AV questions answered. This is AVRant. Want your home theater or AV question answered by Tom and Rob? Send it to question@avrant.com.
Welcome to another edition of AVRant. I'm Tom Andry, and I'm here with
Rob H. This is AVRant. It's your home theater and AV questions answered. My voice is back. Yay! My personal Sofabaton X2 review unit has not arrived to me yet. Boo! And then we have oodles of questions on our question list because many people saw or heard what we said last week about how emails were missing, how two people wrote in to say, hey, never heard our names or our questions mentioned. And we're like, if two wrote back to us, there might be others. Well, there were many others, and many others did write back to us. So both yay and boo, because yay, thank you so much for giving us another shot and sending in those emails that we absolutely never had any idea were sent to us and we totally missed. But boo, because that happened. I am not happy that our email let us down that way.
Very strange glitch in the matrix there, because I don't think we've ever had this problem in all the years of this podcast.
I've definitely had where some emails don't get forwarded to me, but there are other signs that at least the emails existed when that happened in the past. This time, no sign of these emails whatsoever to either of us, so we don't know what happened. I mean, was it all to do with AWS was down for a while at that time? There was the Cloudflare was out for a day at one point, so it's like we don't know what happened, but there seemed to be like 2 weeks of missing emails. So
I thought we were just like, well, we finally got it. We finally did it. We've extinguished all the questions that there can be.
Well, also, it was right around Thanksgiving, so I was like, okay, it makes sense. Some people just aren't writing in. I mean, with everything that's going on, a lot of people don't have as much disposable income anymore, or are holding on to what disposable income they have. So we didn't think it was necessarily that strange, the lack of emails we had there for the couple of weeks. But it turns out there were definitely quite a few missing, and so I mean, we can say it now for the second week in a row. If you're hearing this now, obviously not everybody saw or heard last week's episode. If you are one person who's like, never heard my question answered, never heard my name mentioned as being still on the list and just waiting for the next week, please send your email to us again, question@avrant.com, because we are definitely not ignoring anybody intentionally, and we for sure had a whole bunch of emails that just completely vanished on us.
So let's just use that as the intro, basically. Question@avrant.com. Especially if we get to the end of this podcast and you have not heard your name, send it again. It's not that we're ignoring you, believe me, or especially those podcasts where we're like, we don't have any questions, we're just gonna talk forever about crap.
Sure.
This is just question@avrant.com. Send it again. You will not annoy us. It's very easy for us to go, I've already seen that question, it's coming, we can respond to you, or we'll let you know.
And look, there have been some instances where someone wrote to us and said, hey, I didn't hear my answer. I'm like, oh no, we definitely answered that. And I sent a link to the timestamp in the YouTube thing, and I'm like, here it was. Gonna be, look, anybody could overlook it. That's easy, but that was definitely not the case. What was going on here? These were emails we had never seen. So there you go.
Yes. Okay. So we're just going to use that as sort of the intro thing. We'll also mention that if you want to email us directly, or you want to see the other links for our stuff, of course, avrant.com. That has all the information from the links and everything for the podcast, including the Flickr album to follow along with the pictures. Facebook.com/avrant podcast, YouTube.com/avrant. Rob directly, if you want to email him, rob@avrant.com. His socials is at First Reflect. I don't even know why we're mentioning that anymore. Does anybody contact you in that way?
I mean, I'm still happy to chat with folks. It's pretty much Blue Sky. Blue Sky is the place to reach me now. I'd probably have some DMs or notifications on X that I haven't looked at in a month, so that is not the place to reach me anymore.
I deleted my account.
Right.
very quickly after new ownership, new management took
I
over.
should technically see DMs or notifications that come to me on threads, but I definitely don't check that very frequently. So Blue Sky is the place to find Rob H. First reflect on Blue Sky.
Now I'm just Tom at AVRant.com, and I do see your emails when they come in, and I will sometimes respond. So just kind of an update. My TV arrived like 20 minutes ago.
Okay. Can I share that little image you shared with me?
Yep.
Okay. Yep. I mean, it's not exactly giving anything away. We said what it was before, but here's proof.
So it arrived. I shoved the box in the corner, and it's staying there. So currently, all my boys are home. So I've got my 16-year-old who has his own room. I have 2 older kids that are in college. They're both home because they, I guess my middle son is in an apartment. He doesn't have to come home, but there's nobody there. So why wouldn't he come home? Everybody else is home. So
all right.
My eldest son is on campus still, which means the campus is closed. The dorms are closed for the holiday season, and he has to go home. He has to go someplace. He can't stay there. So they're all here. So we've got 4 bedrooms in this house. One of them is being used as this room, which is a bedroom, and my middle son my eldest son was staying in here. And then we have the theater room, which my middle son was staying in because he's barely ever around. He's got a lot of friends. He's got a lot of stuff. He came in late on last Thursday, and then Friday night he was like, "I'm going to go play some poker," and he left at like 10 and didn't come back till 6 a.m. So, he doesn't, we don't need to set aside a whole room for him. But of course, he went so hard and so fast when he got back with his friends that he is now sick. So So he will be taking over this room. But basically what I'm saying is I got kids everywhere. I got stuff everywhere. And of course, just to add to the chaos, we're supposed to be having dinner guests tonight, which may or may not cancel based on the fact that my son is now sick. So I've got a lot of stuff going on here. I finished doing all the testing and taking all the pictures for the lights that we set up on the front of the house.
The outdoor lights?
The Lepro, Lepro, I think is what they are. And you'll see that coming up pretty soon in AV Gadgets. I have been testing the remote, playing around with it, trying different things. I did not try to connect the lights to it because, again, I gave the access to the lights to my wife because I wanted to see. She was the one that was really interested in doing it, so I was like, let's see how much she actually does with it. The answer is until she's tried 3 of. She did a regular setting or whatever, and then she's like, oh, I'm gonna have it chase, the lights chase around the house, and we basically didn't like it. I mean, what essentially happened was because we drive by the front of our house, and because it's some kind of a major street, we go by so fast you can't really see the lights. I mean, we're not going that fast, but it's fast enough because of the angles. You only get to see the house for a second. So we're like, I can't even see the lights. It doesn't even look like anything's on. So she switched it back to something more festive for the holidays.
Okay.
And now it's kind of solid. And so I'm going to take control of the lights, see what I can figure out. But man, they look phenomenal.
Okay.
So,
awesome.
So I will talk about it in the review, but there's the lights are on the string, of course, and then you stick them to the ceiling or the eave. Yeah. And when you put them up there, they're like, okay, make sure you put them between this space and this space between this distance and this distance from the wall, because they basically shine down and they make like a little cone of light on the wall below it, and that's how you see them. If not, you're not really gonna see much. They don't dangle. They just shoot straight down. Okay. So I'm like, okay, so I got like this little screwdriver, and I was like, this is about the right distance. I'll hold the screwdriver up, and that will be the right distance, and I'll just make sure they're all equal distance so that they all look right. Ask me how many times I've held that screwdriver up above my head on a ladder on the eave while I was trying to stick these lights up, Rob. Ask me how many times I did it.
How many times have you held that screwdriver up above your head on those eaves?
I didn't even take it up the ladder. It never made it past the dinner table where I took the pictures of the lights themselves.
But it worked
had
out?
It all
It
marked
worked out
off and
okay?
everything. So I was like, I'm just going to eyeball this crap. That's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to eyeball it.
That
right?
sounds like a DIY installation, all right.
Well, that's what it is, right?
Yeah.
You know, and most people are going to do it this way, I think. You know, some people are going to be neurotic about it, but there's also like, you don't really know. You know how long the light strings are, but you don't really know how, you know, unless you start doing like complex, you know, geometry or whatever in order to figure out, okay, well, the angle of the eave is this, and it's going to be this far up. And then, you know, I got to, you know, how many lights can I really fill in here? So you're like, well, you want to put them equal distant apart, right? But you don't know how many lights you can actually fit up there. So you don't want to have, the worst would be to have too few, and then the lights just kind of peter out.
Weird gaps,
right? Right. So that would suck. But also, it would be bad to have too many, because then you're like, what? I'm going to overlap. You can't cut it. You can't cut the string, you know, sort of thing. At least I don't think you can. Didn't say that on there anywhere. So I was like, well, I want them to be equal distance more than I want them to be, you know, as fit absolutely every light up there I possibly can. And I'm more worried about running out of lights than I am about not having enough.
Okay.
So I will put them at the maximum distance that the string will allow. Right. Therefore, they'll always be equal distant. I don't have to worry about that. But they'll also be
maximum coverage.
A maximum number coverage, you know, sort of thing. I can't imagine them being any closer together than they actually are.
Oh.
Like the distance between them is very close, but the light cones, based on how far away I put the lights, which was
Eve distance.
Some distance, that'd be about, I don't know. It looked right at the time, and I would look back and just make sure they were all, I mean, they look great. And even if they're a little bit off in the distances, because sometimes where I was sticking them up on the eave, there was like a bump there and I couldn't do it. So I'd have to go back and forth, or it was going around the corner, or if it was, there was a bunch of stuff. But the thing is that, you know, they just look phenomenal, and they stick up there really good. You'll see in the picture that I have not shared with you yet, but I will on the
That'll
review.
need to be provided for me.
But there's one that fell, right?
Okay.
And I just need to go up there and put an extra sticky thing in the back and stick it back up. But it fell, and I didn't notice it forever because the lights are so strung out so tight that it's only down like an inch or two, and you don't really notice that. But just overall, and you know, if I would say there was a downside of this type of light, not these lights specifically, this type of light, it doesn't feel useful to be able to control the color of each individual light separately. Like, I know there's somebody out there who's going to be like, that is exactly what I want. But as a person who has other things to do in their life and is not so type A that they need to control every single aspect of the lights on their string, I'm just like, oh man, it's so much
Too much granular control.
You know, so too much granular control. And that, so the lights are up. I'm doing that. We'll talk a little bit more about that.
You'll have to provide a link for these things now, because that was a 10-minute review, Tom. So
it wasn't quite 10 minutes.
Put a link to that thing.
And then the Sofabaton is going pretty well. I haven't had any real problems with it, other than occasionally. So it will learn remote control things, you know. So I was like, well, I have a fan in my home theater that's RF controlled.
Yeah.
So maybe it can learn that. And the answer is no, it cannot.
I don't know how the learning works other than infrared. Infrared learning definitely works, but I'm not sure about learning RF or definitely not Bluetooth.
It definitely has a way of doing that. Yeah. So basically, when you select into the RF, it'll give you two different options for like the megahertz or whatever it is that the RF is on.
Yeah, two different frequencies.
It basically tells you, if you don't know, try them both. Yep. So I tried them both and it didn't work. But I honestly don't need it to control my fan. I'm going to be dead honest with you. I really don't.
It should be able to do that, though. Yeah, should be able
to. But it didn't. So that's that. And just recently, occasionally, it will not turn on or it does not turn on the Apple TV 4K. And I don't know why. It was doing it very consistently for a very long time. And then, like twice in a row, I turned on the system, and then the Apple TV didn't turn on. But when I went into the actual device on there and just pressed power, on the Sofabaton immediately turned on. So I'm not sure sure what's going on with that. I might have to go into the settings and put a delay in there someplace.
All sorts of issues of how you can do it. Like you can tell it to either click or press and hold. If you're doing the press and hold, you can tell it how long to hold.
Which is what you have to do to turn it off.
To turn it back off, yeah, you have to tell it to press and hold the home button for like 1 second, and then scroll down 1 click, and then click OK, because that's the actual power off button in the interface. So you have to create that little sequence. For the power on, maybe telling it to press and hold for half a second or something would work more effectively for the wake up.
We'll see.
Yeah.
All right. So that's everything that's going on in my life right now.
Okay.
Anything you want to talk about before we go on to what we watched?
I don't really think so. No, we had a little birthday celebration. One of my aunt's birthdays is in December, so we had a nice little family lunch gathering. That was nice, and a couple of doctor's appointments, and then just collecting all the Christmas presents that I've ordered. And there's like one for my sister that I ordered at the end of November, which has apparently just been sitting not at USPS, which is the delivery service I chose, but they chose to send it from the warehouse to USPS via a global shipping partner who has apparently just had it in their warp system somewhere since December 7th and hasn't moved and it hasn't gotten to USPS yet. So I reordered that item from a different place via different shipping, and I'll have to see if it ever comes. I'll be out whatever amount of money if both of them show up, because it's not something I can use that I ordered for my sister.
Okay.
But that's been going on.
So what'd you watch, Rob?
Yes, I watched one movie this week, which is the fairly new movie. It was in theaters not that long ago. If I Had Legs, I'd Kick You. And so this is another A24 feature. So this is written and directed by Mary Bronstein, who also plays a character in this movie, not the lead character, a supporting character, but she also has a role in this movie. So the lead of this movie is Rose Byrne, and she is terrific in it. There's been some Oscar buzz for her performance in this movie, and it is well-deserved. The way this movie is shot is not a particular cinematography showcase. There's a fair amount of handheld. There is a lot of close-ups, which is something that a lower budget movie will often do because they just don't have the money for elaborate sets and things behind the actors. And of course, this movie is very much a personal drama that focuses entirely on the emotions and mental state of Rose Byrne's character. So the close-ups make sense. But all of that is to say, if Rose Byrne's performance doesn't work, which it 100% does, then this movie would entirely fall apart. And Rose Byrne is very easy on the eyes and very easy to look at, even when she's made up to be all disheveled and definitely not necessarily looking her best. But, without her being cast as the lead, this movie definitely wouldn't have been anywhere near as good as it turned out to be. Now, there is in my opinion, distracting bit of casting in this, which is that Conan O'Brien is here as just a straight-ahead dramatic actor in this movie.
Really?
It is not a comedy role whatsoever. He is not playing Conan O'Brien, the late-night TV host. He's just playing a straight-ahead dramatic character, and it's distracting. It's distracting that it's Conan O'Brien. It's distracting that he isn't a fantastic actor. He's not terrible in this, but he just, there's a thing you can recognize about well-established, very good actors, and he doesn't quite have that experience. That's not his forte. I don't exactly know why he was cast for this particular role.
Maybe
I don't know what the
producer or something. I don't know.
Well, he's not. I was looking for his name in the producer credits, and it wasn't there. So I don't exactly know what happened with that. But anyway, Christian Slater is also here. A$AP Rocky is also here. And I liked that. The male characters in this movie are not portrayed in any sort of negative light. There are certainly conflicts between the characters. This is a drama. There are conflicts, but it's not, like some man-hating movie or something like that in any regard. And so, yes, this is another movie that feels like, is this autobiographical? And Mary Bronstein has said, no, it's not. It's fictionalized, but it is drawing from personal experience. So there's that little bit of, sort of pseudo semi-autobiography that's going on in here. And I mean, this movie could be called Stress the Movie. That's that. It is difficult for me to say that this is a pleasant watch. I kind of regret watching this movie when I watched it, because I don't typically watch movies later at night very often, but I did watch this when I was like, this was not a good movie to try and go to sleep right afterward, because it just keeps you tense the whole time. And on a home theater front, a huge reason why that is so effective is the sound. The audio in this movie, which I'm not going to say is some kind of like surround sound immersive audio showcase or anything like that, but it relies upon the constant din of noise, but it is a changing soundscape that's going on. It doesn't let you like tune out the noise. It's not that type of constant din. It's just there is always noise going on, but it is always changing, and it keeps you uncomfortable the way Rose Byrne's character is very uncomfortable and stressed out the entirety of this movie. And it is effective, at least to me as an audience member, bringing me into that level of stress and anxiety and constantly feeling like I can't get a moment's peace to myself, which is how she's feeling. And it's very, very effective at that. I also really liked that the daughter in this movie, Rose Byrne's character has a daughter. That daughter is very ill. And they never explicitly say what her illness is, but it is definitely like an eating disorder. It is not anorexia. There are plenty of clues in this movie without them saying it explicitly that, I forget the actual name for the disorder, but it's where you cannot stand the texture of food in your mouth. It absolutely creates this adverse reaction, like not rational in any way. It's a disorder, but that the textures of foods are so disgusting to the person that they spit everything out. And, her daughter now has to be fed through a feeding tube that's inserted, directly into her digestive system. And so, obviously a lot of stress going on with that. But the daughter in this movie, I really liked that she's not the typical movie type of kid who is way smarter than any kid in real life, talks completely like an adult, which is a trope. Absolutely not that. She's also not like a silent character like many kids in movies are. And she's not like absurdly stupid, or the things that she says you absolutely couldn't picture a kid saying. Like, it is 100% very realistic child dialogue. Her reactions to everything, I can absolutely see any real life kid reacting the way that she does, but in the way that this movie is done, in all the scenarios that we're witnessing and we're going along with Rose Byrne's character, like, she's annoying. She's a very ill kid, and you care about her and you want her to get better, but she's annoying. It's like, but that's pretty realistic. But I really liked that. Like, I don't think I've seen that many movies where kids are portrayed like that. Like, they're either talk like adults, or they're overly cute, or they're silent, or there's something else unrealistic. This was like maybe the most realistic kid that's ever been portrayed in a movie. There's a interesting choice though, which is that we essentially never see the daughter's face. It's a choice to keep that's more for the audience than it is for the story. That's more to keep us in this, again, continuously anxious and stressed out state of like, you want to see what people are talking about with how this daughter looks, but they never let you see it. They never let the audience see it. So yeah, it's that was an interesting choice there. So I'm giving a fair amount of praise to this movie, but I also have criticisms. Part of it is like Rose Byrne's character, very believable. I absolutely believe that a real life person could react this way, but you are watching 2 hours of a movie of someone just continuously make terrible choices. She makes terrible choices.
That's the way I felt about the Bad Lieutenant movie when I watched it. One time I watched it, the original. I never watched the remake because why would I? Right. And in that movie, I was just so like irritated with the main character. I'm just like, why did I spend my time doing this?
Sure. And so that's another thing that makes it hard to say that this is like an enjoyable watch, because it's just like, oh my goodness, this woman and the choices that she's making. And also, again, very believable. But going to multiple different people in this movie, and I mean, she is so stressed out. She is so at the end of her rope, and she's just like, just tell me what to do. Just tell me what to do. I don't know what to do. Right. And people are like, okay, here's what you need to do. And she's like, I'm not going to do that.
That's exactly what people are really like, though. It's very irritating, which is why I don't like people all that much, to be honest with you. So that seems as believable as anything else in this movie.
Absolutely, and that's what I mean. None of this was where I was rolling my eyes at how unbelievable any of it was. Yeah. It was maybe too believable, and therefore not enjoyable to watch in any way. I've expressed that multiple times, and I'll stick by that. Also, because this does seem sort of pseudo or semi autobiographical, and I've seen some interviews with Mary Bronstein and that, and it's like, the type of person that she is not someone I would get along with in real life. And I mean, hey, that's just going to be the way it is sometimes. And so I think if she had cast herself as the lead in this movie, I wouldn't have a ton of praise for this movie. I think it is because Rose Byrne is playing that lead character that I was going along with this movie at all. It does get into some slightly hallucinogenic imagery at times, which is not entirely out of place. It's part of the terrible choices that the lead character is making, everything that goes on. And there's some very overt could have used a little bit more subtle metaphors that go on in here. It kind of bashes you over the head with some of the very unsubtle visual metaphor that happens in this movie. So, those are my criticisms of it. But yeah, look, if what I've said sounds super interesting to you, then you're going to like this movie.
You're definitely not selling it to me. I'll tell you that much. there's nothing about the words that have come out of your mouth that made me think I'm going to watch this movie.
But I mean, there's plenty to appreciate here. There is stuff I really appreciated about this movie. But yeah, by the same token, if what I said is making you go, absolutely no way do I want to watch that, I think I've described it pretty well without spoiling anything. So yeah, that was, if I had legs, I'd kick you. And it's certainly a movie that elicits a reaction, if nothing else. I just wanted to mention very quickly, I'm continuing to watch Pluribus. I don't know how many episodes are in this first season, but people have sort of been, I don't even know if debating is the right word, discussing online whether Pluribus, the TV show, is like supposed to be an overt metaphor for AI and generative AI and everything that's going on, because there are certainly parallels that you can draw. Not that it's the sort of overt where they're just like, hey, this is a show about AI. It's only to do with human people in this show, but it's like, yeah, is this all supposed to be a metaphor for AI? Well, in the most recent episode, and look, if you don't want to hear anything about Pluribus, then tune out for the next 30 seconds to a minute while I say this, but like, I can't help it because I love this so much, and I just have to say it out loud. One of the characters that we're meeting, he's as I mentioned before, all the people that the main characters meet, they're like strangely happy, and they want to make the main characters happy. And so the main characters come to this one character that we met not that long ago in this show, and they're like, we can give you anything, we can take you anywhere, like just tell us what we can do to make you happy, we can make it happen. And he just says to them, like, just stone cold right to their faces, like, there is nothing you can give me, everything you have is stolen. I'm just like, yep, this is about AI. That's what this show is about. I'm like, okay, right on. But it was awesome.
In case you were wondering. Yeah, we were, there's been a lot of discussion in this household about AI and whether or not it's useful or whatever. And I'll give you my example, which was, I told you guys I installed a doorbell, one of the doorbell cams at the front door, and I needed to install one in the back door, right? And I couldn't because it goes on stucco and it won't stick to stucco with the backing. So you need to, and drilling into stucco is no joke. And behind that stucco is also cinder block. So it's not going to be easy to drill through. So I tried with what I had and nothing was working. So I ended up going to Ace Hardware to go pick up. I don't know what I was going to pick up. I was going to pick up something. I took the bracket with me because I thought I might get some screws or whatever that would go into the stucco. That way I wouldn't have to drill out a hole that I would have to use for anchors or whatever.
Okay.
And I got there and I was like, first of all, the place was, I've never seen this place busy. It was packed. People were fighting in the parking lot. But I got in there and I was like, well, I'll just get a drill bit that can go through here. And I've got drywall anchors at home that came with the kit. I'll just, well, not drywall anchors, but, wall anchors, plastic anchors. I mean, thing weighs like, 3/4 of a pound, maybe.
Yeah, it's not a heavy. The stucco probably could hold it.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. It's just a matter of getting a screw into it is the problem. You just got to have the right screw to go into it. So, because believe me, I tried. So I was like, well, I'll just look up online the size of the what drill bit I need in order to drill into this for the anchors that came with this kit. So I looked it up, and of course, the first thing that Google is going to give you these days is the AI summary, whatever, of everything. Sure. And I usually scroll past that till I get to something else, right? But I was in a rush, and I was in the aisle at the store, and there was another guy who's also looking at drill bits. So I was scrolling past it. I tried to scroll past it, and I was like, well, let's just see what it says. It said you need this size. So I got it. I was like, yep, this is, I mean, how could it get this wrong? It's got to be clearly listed someplace on the website. It's just scraping data. That's what AI is. The only thing it's really good at is scraping data. It wasn't even close to right. Yeah. It was just, luckily it was too small and not too big, because that would have been a real problem. But I had to do the whole little, got to go around and around and around with the bit in order to try to hollow it out a little bit extra so I could get the drywall anchor, the screw anchor in there. And I was just like, why do we have this? Why are we spending money on this thing? Because it doesn't even do the thing it's actually good at. And my wife and I were talking about it. I'm like, you got to understand, in my position where I write articles that are informative for people, right? It is scraping my article in order to give you the data, right? If I stop writing the article, it won't have anything to scrape except for articles that it wrote or old articles, which will be out of, it won't be current. I said, and she's like, well, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, listen, I've already seen our AI articles that are written, best remote control out there, and it's just a big long list of Harmony remotes. I'm like,
good luck.
Good luck buying one of those. So yes, we are. I'm glad that it's only. I keep thinking that it's going to happen any day now. The AI bubble is going to burst. Hopefully, it won't take my retirement or my wife's retirement with it, but we'll see. I watched, or at least I started watching Solo Leveling, which is an anime that was very popular a little while ago. Everybody was talking about it, and I never watched it, and now I started watching it, and it is an anime, and it is fine, and I'm liking it so far. But I will tell you that it's sort of like when how cyclical music is, where somebody will be like, oh my God, Lady Gaga is the best female artist that's ever been. I'm like, we've got Madonna. We've got Beyonce. We've got Mariah Carey. Are you sure Lady Gaga is the best person, or is this your generation's version of the best person? Anime is a lot like that, where it's like, okay, here's the same anime, but with a twist. Here's the twist. And the only thing that makes anything interesting anymore for most animes, there are some out there that are truly unique. And I would argue that Attack on Titan would qualify there, and a couple others that I've seen recently. But a lot of them are just the twist. And this twist is interesting, but it's not like it's, groundbreaking, at least not what I've seen so far. So we shall see. Let's get into the podcast. We're going to thank our listeners of the week, because we already talked about how to email us, question@avrant.com.
I'll throw it really quick there.
Listener of the week, to become a listener of the week, to support the podcast in some way. One of the ways you can do that is going to AVRant.com, click on the Buy Us a Cup of Coffee link, and send us a PayPal donation. And this week we had Dane and Andrew do that. Thank you very much to Dane and to Andrew.
Yeah, that's for sure. Dane and Andrew, thank you for those PayPal donations. Really appreciate that financial support.
And if you want to support us monthly without having to think about it, patreon.com/AVRantPodcast. Sign up every month. They'll take some money from you, a minimum of $1, and give most of it to us. So right now we have 122 patrons over at patreon.com.
That's right. Once again, that is patreon.com/AVRantPodcast. Yeah, AVRant Podcast. I'd stumbled over those words. Why? I don't know. But yes, if you want to make an automatic monthly donation, you can sign up there. So big thanks to our 122 patrons.
We also got notes of gratitude for keeping the podcast going through, almost 1,000 episodes here. From Mohsen, Kevin, Scott. Scott says he's been listening to AVRant for over 10 years, and he's been applying our advice all over his house. Glenn, Ilango, John, Nelson, Dane, Rory says he's been listening for 10 years at least. Yanick, who enjoys our What We Watched movie reviews, and Ash, who says Merry Christmas. So many of those people, I imagine, are people whose questions got skipped.
There were quite a few of those. That's right. Not all of them. Not literally all
Kevin,
of them.
Scott, Glenn, Ilango, John, Nelson, Dane, Rory, Yanick, and Ash. Thank you for thanking us.
I'll say the names one more time so they came from my lips. We got Mohsen, Kevin, Scott, Glenn, Ilango, John, Nelson, Dane, Rory, Yanick, and Ash. Thank you all so much for those notes of gratitude and encouragement. Really appreciate them. A big, big thank you to everybody who continues to listen and send in your questions.
All right. Emotiva has released a new pair of floor-standing loudspeakers. They're called the Nostala. I guess they didn't want to say nostalgia because that's what they look like.
That's just it. You already sussed it out, Tom. Well done.
LB12. They're priced at $3,000 a pair, and I'm going to be dead honest with you guys. From first blush, just looking at them for the very first time, just this second, you could not give me these speakers.
Right.
You could not physically push past me at my front door to throw the speakers in my house. I'm not saying they sound bad. I'm not saying they're not good sounding speakers.
Right.
I'm saying you could not force me to allow these speakers to exist in my home. Not a chance.
It is very, very evident, though, as soon as you see the images. If you're on YouTube, you're seeing them right now in line. If you can, if you're listening to the audio only, you can go to our website, avrant.com, and click on the Flickr album link. But yeah, or you can just go to Emotiva and look up the Nostala LB12. But they absolutely instantly are like, yep, those are nostalgia speakers.
I mean, they're priced at $3,000 a pair.
$3,000 a pair.
You could maybe get me to put them like on a shelf in a garage. Okay. You know what I mean? That's what they look like. They look like old, I mean, it's Nostala, but they look like old speakers from the 80s, 70s, 60s. I don't know.
That's right.
Anyways, from the name to the looks to the marketing description, there's no subtlety here as the sort of customer that Emotiva is targeting with the speaker model, the 1-inch silk dome tweeter, and unusually large 5 1/4 hyper dome fabric mid-range driver are both offset over to one side of the 15.5-inch wide cabinets. The tweeter is crossed over to the mid-range at 2 kilohertz, and the mid-range is crossed over to the 12-inch paper cone bass woofer at 200 hertz. Both crossovers are second order, which is 12 dB per octave, but it is a true three-way design. The 30-inch tall cabinets are front ported with dual flared ports at the bottom. They are raked back to account for the height. Whatever. And they weigh 71 pounds each. The feet, I guess I can't put them on a shelf because they're too freaking heavy. The feet are made from wood and permanently attached. They only come in one finish option, which is a veneer of actual walnut. Since it's a real wood veneer, and each and every speaker is unique, and all of the veneer is hand applied, so it's going to look different, not necessarily going to look exactly identical. One of the most up-to-date features of the magnetic grills, there are no grill holes to look at when the grills are off. Emotiva is including both dark gray and cream-colored grills in the box to match your decor. Specs-wise, they're rated at 8 ohms nominal impedance with a rather high 91 dB sensitivity. Continuous power handling is rated at 150 watts with 350 watt peaks. Frequency response is listed at plus or minus 3 dB from 40 hertz up to 32 kilohertz. Whatever. Around the back, there are toggle switches for both the tweeter and the mid-range driver, so you can tailor the frequency response to your liking. And of course, there are dual binding posts, so you can buy wire or buy amp these speakers if you want. There's no actual mention of internal crossovers being disconnected when you remove the metal jumpers, though, so enjoy simply thinking that your bi-amping is making an audible difference, or by wiring. The Emotiva Nostala LB12 are available to order now for $3,000 a pair. As mentioned, the first run is limited stock, but they say restocking will happen in early 2026. No. That's literally look, my only response to this.
The one thing that I kind of like about these is they are an instant, these are exactly what I'm looking for, or an instant, I have no interest in these. There's not going to be any sort of humming and hawing as to whether these are the speakers for you. So that much I'll give them, that much I like about them.
I don't understand. They are certainly unique. I think we will see these in a TV show or movie.
Oh yeah, sure.
Coming up very soon, I think, because they have that, or maybe a music video, right? Because Kendrick likes to put stuff like
That's
this.
right.
In
I don't think they're expensive enough for that, but
maybe not. But they certainly have the aesthetic that those types of media are looking for. Like I said, there's nothing about this that's attractive to me or that makes me think. I mean,
well, let's roll on because we got to get to the questions as quick as we can.
What could the off-access response of these things be?
Not good. Not
can't
great.
Be good. Not with that baffle. Anyways, it's actually happening on February 19th, 2027 in celebration of the 50th anniversary of Star Wars, now Star Wars Episode 4 A New Hope. Disney will re-release the original version of Star Wars in theaters for a limited time. For as much of the film as was physically possible, they went back to the original film negatives to scan and restore the original version. McClunky? Who's McClunky?
That was a word that was said in the latest versions on Disney+.
Oh. McClunky will be gone and Han will shoot first. So there you go for all people who care. Disney has not announced anything other than this limited time theatrical re-release, but it seems highly likely they'll eventually come to Disney Plus and perhaps a collector's edition disc release. Why do a full 4K rescan from their negatives otherwise? And I agree with that. Well, you'll be able to give them more money for it if you like.
For sure. Yeah. No. Anyway, I'm sure this will be successful in theaters for the limited run that it has. People have been waiting for this for ages. I think people might also see the old uncleaned up effects and be like, maybe a little bit of the, not necessarily special. I think the best versions that there ever were of Star Wars were the digitally enhanced versions, where they didn't change any of the dialogue or the editing or the cuts or anything like that, but they just cleaned up some of the effects that were definitely never intentional, right? The massive Vaseline smudge under the speeder, being able to see through the A-pillars of the X-Wings, like that was not intentional. If there had been any way to shoot that where it looked the way that George Lucas wanted it, he would have. And I don't mind those types of things being cleared up. I don't think that destroys the narrative.
I remember
or the
on Cloud City when they added in those, there was
Empire
cutouts
Strikes
there
Back,
that were just solid white walls, and then they made those windows. Mm-hmm. And that sort of stuff I really appreciate. I think it added
that's full
to the
on
movie.
special edition, but
yeah, and I like that part of what they added. Is that something that everybody loves or whatever? I don't know, but if it were me, I would keep stuff like that in, stuff that adds to the world but doesn't change anything about the story or what's going on around it. It's not distracting.
Yeah, some of the images that have been posted online of the going back to the original negatives and showing some of the scans they've done is like, whoa, that does look like that is a very clean scan. So that much we'll appreciate for sure.
Some comments here from our listeners. Sasi heard Rob M's question about wanting to connect a turntable to his KEF LSX2 LT self-powered speakers, which only have digital inputs. Rob suggested using a simple analog to digital converter that would take the line-level RCA outputs that Rob M's Sony turntable can provide and turn these into optical audio connection that can be plugged into his KEF speakers. Sasi thought the same sort of solution, but he just wanted to suggest the miniDSP PocketADC. It's an analog to digital converter.
That's right.
As the specific device for the job, it's $55 US, but only a bit more expensive than the model off of Amazon that our Rob linked. But the PocketADC has been objectively measured and validated as having extremely low noise and distortion, and it's from a brand that he trusts, and we also trust it. Yeah. So another option to consider, the miniDSP has a dedicated phono preamp that can convert to digital and provide multiple equalization curve choices via its DSP. It's called the Adept.
ADEPT, but I think
the A and the D, or
they made it an
capitalized.
acronym. Adept. Yeah,
I don't know. Anyways, analog to digital, EPT.
Yes.
Whatever. It's $300 US and not really necessary in Rob M's case. Superb objective performance from it, though, so it's worth remembering that miniDSP makes a lot more than just the 2x4 HD. So for those of you that
That's
are thinking
true.
about it.
Yeah.
And just because we trust the brand to make a good 2x4 HD doesn't mean that we should trust them to make everything, because Emotiva just put out a speaker that you couldn't, that you would have to literally throw through my window.
Yeah, $55 for their analog to digital converter. That's not an insane price. I don't mind that. And it does have objective measurements to back up their claims. So, yes, I have no problem with that recommendation. I think it would do a great job.
Glenn thanked us for suggesting the Bobwire model AAT1 12-volt trigger device so that he can add a separate Zone 2 trigger to his Dane X3800H, which only had a single 12-volt trigger output of its own. We mentioned the $200 USD listed price on Amazon, which he agreed was kind of ridiculous, but thankfully he was able to find it being sold for only $100. Maybe still a bit steep at that price, but definitely much less than upgrading his entire receiver. It does seem to be the right device for the job, so he's glad we brought it to his attention. So you're welcome, Glenn.
He ordered one. I hope it works out fantastically for you.
John took delivery of his Sofabaton X2 remote, and he just wanted to share his experience. He already had an X1S, so he's familiar with their previous app versions, but he thinks the X2 has made a huge leap forward. He found the X2 extremely easy to program. Every one of his devices came up right away in the current database. He's got a Yamaha Avantage RX A3070 receiver, a Sony X900F 85-inch TV, a DirecTV satellite TV box, a Apple TV 4K, Amazon Fire Stick 4K, and an Oppo UDP205 Ultra HD Blu-ray player. Like you said, they all popped up right away.
That's right.
So go ahead. What?
No, that was it.
Oh, yeah. He utilized the full complement of IR extension blaster cables that come with the hub, and the only issue he had to manually fix was to eliminate any of the superfluous, I can never say that word. Superfluous HDMI input choices for his Yamaha receiver that automatically downloaded when he added that device, but don't actually exist on his physical unit. This is true. This happened on mine too.
Yeah.
The NAD, it's like has all these HDMI inputs, and then they like repeat or something. It's like weird that they're like overlapping or something.
Yeah.
So once those were gone, which is what he had to do to get the one, he just deleted everything except for the one I think that he needed, or maybe
he needs a few, because
was this for the receiver? It was for the receiver. So the ones that he needed, everything works swimmingly. And if you live with anyone who struggles with changing inputs, just buy a Sofabaton X2 and get busy living, he says. So it gets a strong recommendation for him.
All right.
Yeah. I didn't have to delete anything to make it work. I just kept pressing buttons because I don't actually know what anything was plugged into. So I had to like keep pressing buttons until it, because it allows you to test each one, right? So it'll test it, and then it's like, oh, that's the one I need.
Yeah, but thank you for weighing in. That's another checkbox, and not just our opinions. And so, yeah, it seems to be from the people who know how to work these things, have the patience to get it set up. They're like, yep, this is pretty darn good. I've seen some negative reactions for sure, but that was always the case with any universal remote, including the Harmonies back in the day. So,
yeah. Gurinder got the Ghost of Totei limited edition PS5 console, but it arrived with a broken seal. He connected it to his LG CX OLED, and his kids were excited to see the PS5 animation that only plays once you first power on a brand new PS5, but sadly all they got was a blank screen. He tried a different HDMI port on his TV, but it was the same thing. Was this a customer return that was resold to him as new? But he thought to try a completely different HDMI cable, and that worked. It does seem like an upgrade to the PS4 Pro, but it does activate his motion sickness with some games. Hopefully not Ghosts of Totei, which he's been looking forward to playing. Why would this one activate his motion sickness as opposed to the PS4 Pro? That's what is that what I'm reading here? That's weird. Anyways, the image on Amazon showed the console with a stand for when the console is vertical, but no such stand was included in the box. So not a perfect experience, but it's nice to finally have regardless. I'm like, okay, I guess.
Congrats on your PS5.
Congrats, I guess. Yeah. Ilango says, what's that? Rob didn't want to show his Lego Star Trek Enterprise on camera last week? Well, then allow him to.
I mean, I did want to. I just wasn't going to physically pick it up.
So Ilango wouldn't call himself a full-on Trekkie, but he does have fond memories of watching The Next Generation with his older brother back in '87. And as Rob well knows, when this Lego set got announced, resistance was futile. I was able to resist it. You surprised.
Yes, that's a great quote that I can't believe I didn't say myself, because it's very appropriate.
Be ashamed of yourself. David came across a blog post about solving HDMI-CEC problems, and he immediately thought of us. The author was having a problem where his Apple TV 4K worked great using HDMI-CEC, but his game consoles would fail to turn on his Dane receiver, leading to the TV speakers activating and messing everything up. He wound up programming a Raspberry Pi to sit there, connected to his AV receiver, and sniffing the HDMI-CEC traffic to recognize whenever a game console powered up, and then the Raspberry Pi would wake up the AV receiver and set it to the correct HDMI input the way HDMI-CEC should have, but wasn't doing. He shared his programming scripts, so it might be very helpful to others. We will link that. Yep. There's no chance I would ever do that.
Isn't that just such a reasonable solution? I mean, look, a Raspberry Pi costs less than a Sofabaton X2. I'll give it that. But I'll say, if you thought that programming a Sofabaton X2 was any sort of time-consuming experience, this does not look like the simplest thing on earth. So, great that people are coming up with solutions, but it's not exactly the consumer-friendly universal control scheme that CEC was promised to be.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Okay, questions. And I don't know exactly. These are going to be all mixed up, I think. But anyways, Dev, regarding our prior discussions about his front, left, and right speakers that have audible dips between 150 and 700 hertz, 150 hertz and 700 hertz. First off, I wanted to see some photos of the room in question, so please excuse the mess of kids' toys, but a couple of quick pics should give us an idea. There's a lot of ivy inside the room.
Yeah, there's some plant life going on there, but yeah, we've got.
I wonder if that's real. Can't be real, right?
I don't know. It could be. Who knows? It could be fake. It could be real. But yeah, he's got his front Ascend Acoustic CBM 170 SE speakers on speaker stands. They do have some small acoustic panels directly behind them on the front wall. He's got some thicker panels with some artwork printed on them that are higher up on that front wall, and his TV mounted there. So yeah, he mentioned how behind the couch, it's just wide open to the kitchen, and then a hallway that goes to the rest of the house. Right. Fireplace on the left wall, big glass with sliding glass doors on the right wall. So yes, we have a pretty decent idea at this point now.
Yeah. So following our advice, he tried putting one of his front speakers on the floor and taking a new measurement, and sure enough, the frequency response changed significantly. So as Rob warned, while the major dip at 150 hertz went away with the speakers positioned on the floor, a whole new dip higher up was created. But the point of the exercise was to see if the suspected floor or ceiling bounce was largely responsible for the original dips in the frequency response, and it seems as though it was. As we requested, he measured just his 3 subwoofers playing all of their own and across 3 different positions on his main couch. Why is this graph backwards? It's so weird.
That's not a backwards graph. That's the subwoofers. Subwoofers all by themselves.
I thought it was trailing off at the end. I thought it was 100. Okay.
Nope.
So he just didn't measure past 20. I see. Or up to 20. It's right before 20 it stops.
Oh, just barely before 20 hertz. Yeah.
Well, the lines are not perfectly superimposed. They look pretty darn good, right?
They
and the steep and even roll off above 80 hertz crossover would seem to indicate that the prior frequency response dips are not the fault of the 3 subwoofers, correct? So you got to work experimenting with the different heights for the front speakers. So yeah, these look pretty good. I would be perfectly fine with this. This is
absolutely
no problems here.
This is what plus minus 3 at the most. That
well,
scale
yeah.
is pretty
if you put a line
up,
straight down the middle of what's going on here, you're plus or minus. Yeah, I think it might be exactly dead on plus or minus 3. It looks like 6 dB. Is what it looks like.
That's the difference
full
in
range.
Seat to seat variation.
Yeah.
For whatever that red line is, if that's the center seat, like that's as close to a ruler flat line as you can reasonably expect to get.
Yeah.
And then,
especially in a room like this, are you kidding me?
Yeah, critically speaking, the he still has the crossover activated, so they start to roll off right around 70 hertz. But they roll off very evenly across all of those 3 seats, and there's nothing happening at 150 to 700 hertz from those subwoofers. So they were not the issue with what you were measuring before. Which, just as a reminder, we've got the prior measurements that he shared, which were the front, left, and right speakers playing together with those 3 subwoofers also integrated. So it was a full range measurement, but it was front, left, and right, and 3 subs all playing together. And now we can see this, obvious dip that's happening before 200 hertz, and then this whole section, largely between 150 and 500 hertz for the most part, where we're seeing, a pretty significant dip that suggests there's a cancellation happening there.
Yeah, so I don't know which measurements you're showing right now because I'm not.
That was just the second one there. The prior measurement is what I'm showing on screen. So then right after that, we've got another graph that he sent in, which is he simply measured only the front left and right speakers, which is something that I asked for him to do. So we can now see the crossover roll off that's happening below 100 hertz, but those virtually identical dips in the same region are still those lines are pretty much superimposed. So it's like, yep, it's the speakers. It's not the subwoofers. It's not the integration of the subwoofers with the speakers. Because I mean, we have it's process of elimination, right? What is causing this cancellation? Is it an inter-speaker cancellation that's happening as opposed to a room reflection? But it's like, nope, the exact same response with the subwoofers taken out of the question, so it's not the subwoofers that are responsible for this. And then he tried different heights of one of the front speakers at a time and got some pretty promising results. So
so as you can see here, the kind of purplish line that's running through here is pretty good. It's amazing. People are often worried about a bunch of other stuff, but you can see that how big of a difference placement can make, even height placement. Well, that's just it. I mean, look, I want to take just a little moment here and kind of toot my own horn a bit, because the suggestion that I gave didn't cost any money, and we knew he's fine with taking measurements. So wasn't asking him to do something completely out of the ordinary for him. I'm not going to expect everybody to do that. I might have said for someone who has no familiarity taking measurements that to just kind of do the trial and error of listening to sweeps over and over to see things that way. But it's like, I really doubt that Google or AI would have given you the answer. No. I don't think it would have happened from just searching on your own, and maybe you would have found someone else online to provide that same answer. But I think a lot of the responses you would have got would have been either put up a whole bunch more acoustic treatments, which I don't think would have solved this issue. Unless they went on your ceiling, which we knew wasn't going to happen, or would have told you get a whole new AV receiver, or just wouldn't have gotten to. All you got to do is change the height of your speakers. So what we're seeing in this graph is like multiple different heights that he tried. Yeah. So he picked the best looking line from that batch, which was raising the speakers up 8 inches higher than it was before, and then measured across all 3 positions on the couch. It's looking pretty superimposed, which is good because that means you can do something with it. The AV receiver and the room correction can do something with it. That green line is a little bit out compared to everything else, but it's not that bad.
Like what we're seeing is, when speakers are going down across all 3 seats of the couch, they're going down in similar areas, they're going up in similar areas, and they are not going up or down nearly as much as they used to when the speakers were physically 8 inches lower than where they are now. Like that was essentially the only change he made here, was physically raising them 8 inches. Then he integrated them back with his 3 subwoofers. We're seeing like, okay, it's not a perfectly flat ruler line with the intended rise in the bass that he's going for in his target curve, but like this is within plus minus 5 at the worst. Whereas before it was like, if we go, I don't have that
or something.
It was like plus minus, at least plus minus 10, maybe more. The worst of the dip. That's between 85 and below 65. So that's more than a plus minus 10 that was going on in the original. And now simply by changing the physical height, he's got it to within, I would say, plus minus 5 at the worst. And for most of it, significantly better than that. Yeah.
And so then he combining the speakers, which are raised 8 inches, back with the 3 subs, and he didn't really make any changes to the subs. Nope. This is what he got.
He didn't make any changes at all.
Yeah, looks pretty good, especially compared to the original. So he says, that looks better, right? So what do we think? Is there anything further to be done at this point? I mean, you can always try to dial in a little bit more, but I would be okay. I would be perfectly okay with this. But he asks, to revisit the question from last week, would a new AV receiver with good room correction be able to make a positive improvement now? We said we were hesitant about trying to fill in the dips from before using room correction, but with the new results after raising the speakers 8 inches, do we think a new AV receiver might be worth it now? I'm going to say yes. To be honest with you.
Well, it's like it's a little bit of a split of it is going to be more effective now. It is
Yes.
not trying to fill in what is just a full-on audio cancellation anymore. But at the same time, it's going to take you from ±5 at the worst to ±2 or ±3. Like, how audible that difference is really going to be. Like, you've made the lion's share of the difference just by altering the physical placement. Before, you could play a sweep and hear at 150 hertz to 400 hertz, like, that is just dipping out. And that made sense. I would challenge you now, play that same sweep, and it's like, maybe because you know it's there, you could hear a minor little squiggle that, yes, a good room correction program could probably fill in for you now at this point, especially since you did all 3 seat measurements and it's pretty similar. So an EQ system is going to be allowed to be very effective on that. But I'm like, I would challenge you how audible it is anymore. So, I mean, that's what we're dealing with. I can see it on the graph. Now a new AV receiver could do, like, improve the look of this line even more, but I argue the actual audibility of it will be kind of minimal. So if you were to say, you know what, I'm pretty happy with these results and I'm just going to leave it as is and not spend any money, I'd be like, that is a really good decision.
I would agree with that. My argument on the other side is, yes, you could dial it in a little bit more with the room correction, but it would also give you very good control, especially if you're getting, a Marantz or a Dane with the Odyssey Editor app. You can now make curves that will be more to your liking. So I think there's some advantage to going with a new receiver that is above and beyond just making the line straighter.
Sure.
But audibility wise, I think that it's not necessarily going to be like a night and day difference unless you start playing with that, those curves and creating your own house curve that is more to your liking. But yeah, you did. I mean, this was great. You did the work, and
the good
really
news
dialed it
to
in.
me is that the evidence suggests we did discover and predicted what was actually causing that issue. So I'm really happy about that.
Yeah. Julian appreciated our advice regarding a new motorized screen for his brother who just bought an Epson 5050 UB projector, but we missed one question that he asked last week.
And that is entirely my fault. That was pure negligence on my part. I missed a bullet point and just didn't put it in the topic list last week. I overlooked it. I apologize.
Julian, we've got a lot of questions to answer around here, my man. Come on. Just get off your high horse. No, I'm sorry. Which ceiling mount would we recommend for the Epson 5050 UB these days? His brother would very much prefer that the projector ceiling mount be white and not black. Well, spray paint is your friend, but you could buy a white one.
Yep, not necessarily in this case. I just wanted to mention we used to frequently recommend Peerless AV for their projector ceiling mounts for their AV equipment racks because they were good quality. They were easily available at B&H Photo, and the prices were like 1/3 of the Chief mounts or the Middle
Chiefs
Atlantic
were really
racks.
expensive,
Which are great products, but, very often we're looking for a lower price point. Well, Peerless AV, I don't know whether it's not just B&H because I looked for them elsewhere. It's like if you look really hard, you can still find some of those Peerless products, but they seem to have exited the market, which I'm sad about. But B&H, they're a great company. They have, found a suitable replacement, which was around when Peerless was around, but now they're going to be my go-to for this. I'd point you at Gabor, Gabor. They have a nice, available in black or white, UPMP 1000W AccuGear universal projector mount for $140. So that is certainly less expensive than the Chief mount. What I like here, because there are less expensive mounts that can totally hold an Epson 5050 UB.
Sure.
This one has a weight limit of 50 pounds, which is more than double what you need it to hold, but I feel nice and safe about that. But what I like are the very granular, accurate worm gear adjustments for the tilt and the roll of the projector. So I love having those because if you want to avoid any sort of keystoning effect, then having very nice, fine, granular controls that are easy to deal with and don't slip and lose their positioning, which can happen on the, with the type that you just tighten, by hand. It's like, you're trying to tighten that where you had it perfectly adjusted and it moves just that little bit. These have the really nice little worm gear adjustments like the Peerless used to have, like Chief offers at a much higher price. So, I have a link for that Gabor ceiling mount in white from B&H Photo, and I think that'll do the trick nicely.
Mohsen in Australia. Mohsen is using 2 bass shakers, the Dayton Audio BST300EX. They present themselves as a 4-ohm load to an audio amplifier and are rated to use up to 300 watts. They are bigger and heavier than Dayton's popular BST1 bass shakers, and they work differently too. Almost like a cross between purely voice coil bass shakers like the BST1 and magnetic piston bass shakers like the ButtKicker. To power them, he's been using 2 Fosi ZA3 stereo amplifiers. Those are Class D and rated to output 180 watts by 2 into 4 ohms. But with the flick of a switch, they can be run in mono mode, not bridge though. And they are rated to deliver 235 watts into 4 ohms when they're used that way. Audio Science Review measured them and found those wattage figures to be accurate if we're talking about short-term peak output figures. But since these are Class D amps, the sustained power is only slightly lower at 145 watts into 2 ohms by 2 into 4 ohms, or 200 watts into 4 ohms when in mono mode. Yeah. Audio Science Review found that also found that frequency response does change depending on the impedance of the speakers they are connected to, but only at higher frequencies. Down low for subwoofers and bass shakers, the frequency response is very linear, regardless of impedance, which is pretty common.
Very common for Class D. These are not Encore. These are not Purify Eigentakt. These are well established. I don't know if they're ICE module or a different Class D design, but yeah. So it has that little foible of if you're running full range speakers, and particularly if you happen to have full range speakers with low impedance tweeters, that's where the frequency response on the Fosi ZA3 Class D amplifier is going to have some non-linearity. So that is not unusual, but that's not the way that they're being used here. These are being used to power some bass shakers that are not doing any frequencies above, I would guess, 100 hertz to any great degree. So they're going to be perfectly linear regardless of impedance up there. It's a pretty good match using Class D, classical Class D amplifiers with subwoofers and bass shakers.
Yeah, so his setup with 2 Fosi ZA3 amps in mono mode, powering 2 Dayton BST300EX bass shakers has been functioning fine, but the wattage numbers do not perfectly line up. Mm-hmm. So he asked a different podcast from us, and as soon as they read the name Fosi, they said, "Oh no, that's not good." And they quickly suggested he urgently needed a more powerful amp. But like, for real, how bad is this current situation? Is the Fosi ZA3 honestly not powerful enough to drive a single BST300EX when set in mono mode? Or is it going to clip or limit itself? It's going to shut down or otherwise damage his deep bass tactile experience? What podcast was that? Please,
I don't know.
I don't want to know. So I don't care. But how many times on this podcast have we been like, we don't usually recommend this company because of reasons, but in your case, it's perfect. Or we often recommend this company, but in your case, they're not going to work for what you're looking for. So we are never like black and white about these things, other than you should be looking at the scientific evidence and making your decision based on that, and not, hey, so-and-so social media influencer bought these new speakers and think they're amazing, so I'm going to buy them too. So
this is a fair concern, though.
It is a fair concern, but you've been using them.
Sure.
So, have you gone over? I mean, first of all, Class C amplification is very, very efficient. So you're not going to be losing a ton of power to heat or anything else. Mm-hmm. So if these things are struggling, you would almost immediately know, because they do just go straight up to their limit and then just, that's it. They shut out. So you would know if you were like, oh, I've been watching this movie and then it's got a lot of bass. I've been watching Dune and it's got a lot of bass in it, and now my couch is suddenly not shaking anymore. You would know if this was a problem. You would also know if it was clipping, because I feel like you would hear, I mean, you're literally sitting on top of these things.
Yep.
You would hear the driver that's going, I'm going to call it a driver, but the mechanism within the bass shaker make a sound that it's not supposed to make.
Yeah, it kind of clang. It was like outright kind of clang. If we're really having that problem,
neither of those things is happening. There you go. Yeah. So think of it. The other thing to remember too is that your Dayton, your bass shakers, they have essentially a volume to them, right? That you change based on how much you want them to actually shake the couch. So what they're rated for is, this is how much, if you are just jacking up the volume as high as possible, shaking as much as you can. And unless this is the world's largest couch, these are bigger and more powerful than your normal Daytons. So they are not taking the full amount of power that they can take because they don't need to, because you don't want them to. So it's sort of like you need a bigger amplifier so that you cannot use all the extra headroom. Whatever. No.
Yeah. No, let's look at the objective figures of what's going on here, because the 300 watts into 4 ohms that those Dayton bass shakers can accept, that is a peak wattage figure.
Right.
So we are expecting that 150 watts for the majority of the time would be like sort of the maximum sustained 300 watt peaks. And so you're saying, okay, Audio Science Review did a very objective measurement of those Fosi ZA3 Class D amplifiers, and they're like, yep, 200 watts sustained into 4 ohms, no problem at all. Peaks up to, they actually measured I think it was 240 or 245, slightly exceeded the 235 that Fosi rated it themselves. But be it 235, be it 245, that's not 300, right? So what are you actually, quote unquote, missing out on at that point? So let's say it was the 235 that Fosi rated themselves, and Audio Science Review said, yeah, they absolutely can deliver a short-term peak of 235 into a 4 ohm load. So from 235 up to 300, that's the quote-unquote missing headroom that you got there. That is literally, this is just the objective mathematical figure, 1.05 decibels of difference. And that is at the absolute extreme maximum peak output that bass shaker could possibly do. So if you had an amplifier that could just full-on send out a peak of 300 watts into 4 ohms instead of 235 or 240, it could make that bass shaker produce 1.05 decibels more output. And decibels still apply, whether we're talking about audible sound or we're talking about physical vibration in the bass shaker here. And that is at the absolute extreme limit. So, I mean, that is the difference. I'm not going to say that there literally is no headroom that a more powerful amplifier could provide you, that there is 1.05 decibels of headroom going by the seemingly very accurate listed specs of these devices. But that is inconsequential. Say that you had a speaker that could theoretically play 1 decibel louder than your current amplifiers can make it play at the absolute extreme of its output. Are you going to say it is urgent that you buy a different amplifier to power those speakers because there is literally 1.05 decibels of theoretical headroom at the maximum output that you can't quite reach right now? There is no danger here. There is no clipping that is going on here. If you clipped this Fosi amplifier, you would also clip a 300 watt amplifier. That's what's going to happen. It means that the program material went, I guarantee you, more than 1 decibel louder than you were requesting in your playback. So you were perfectly safe, and that other podcast was flat out wrong.
Yeah. So how much variable power do these particular Dayton bass shakers actually need?
150 watts into 4 ohms.
Yeah. And would upgrading to something like a Crown or a Dayton amplifier provide a noticeable improvement? 1 point something dB improvement.
That's right, yeah.
And would either of these be much more reliable and safe? And the answer is no.
I mean, look, if you had never bought the Fosi amplifiers, if you had bought a Dayton SA1000 amplifier to power these instead, you'd be A-okay. So, yeah.
And what would he actually feel if he were to upgrade to an amplifier that maxes out these bass shakers' capabilities versus what he's getting right now with the Fosi amps powering them? Nothing.
Absolutely no discernible difference. It truly inconsequential. Continue being happy with your Fosi ZA3 amplifiers. They're really good. So there you go.
Crazy. Okay. Kevin. Here's some more to do with Tactile Transducers. Kevin has 2 rows of seats in his theater, 4 seats in each row. Last year, he got 2 ButtKicker LFE Tactile Transducers, and he attached one of them to each row of seats directly beneath the primary seat in each row. He used a piece of plywood to create a platform underneath the 2 seats onto which he could bolt the ButtKickers, but it actually required more work than he initially anticipated since he ended up having to recess the plywood platforms just so the ButtKicker units could fit, because they're a lot bigger than he expected.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
sometimes
honest,
you see them in the photos, and you've seen other base shakers, and they're like, oh, those are like a fist-sized thing, which honestly, not a crazy thought to have if you're just seeing the photos in a vacuum. But no, there's some hefty little devices like that. That could easily be a soundbar subwoofer. Like, that's the type of size that they are. They're not inconsequential, the ButtKicker LFE.
So, to be honest, one ButtKicker LFE for one seat is overkill, but since his 2 rows of seats are theater recliners pushed together, not actual couches that are genuinely one physical piece all attached, the other seats in each row don't get to share in much of the physical shaking. When he has guests over, he lets them have the good seats so that they can experience the ButtKickers. But he's thinking he'd like to expand so that all or at least more of his seats get to have that tactile vibrations. The thing is, he only has one easily accessible speaker wire that he ran from his equipment rack to the back of the room. It's connected to a single channel of his Behringer NX3000 amplifier right now. It's rated to deliver a max of 2 by 900 watts into 4 ohms when he's running in stereo mode, but it also can be bridged to deliver a max of 3000 watts into 4 ohms. It's also totally stable into 2 ohms and rated to deliver 2 times 1500 watts into 2 ohms. So running his two ButtKicker units off of just one channel with an NX3000 in stereo mode is no problem. It's been working just fine.
There's some theoretical headroom left on the table. Running
you thought about getting Fosi amps? Let's get a bunch of Fosi amps.
Well, no, he's got more wattage on tap, and the ButtKicker LFE can absorb considerably more wattage than even the larger Dayton bass shakers. But he hasn't been worried. He's like, it's been working just fine. He hasn't been worried about the theoretical headroom that he's been missing out on.
Not broke, don't fix it. And just so we are aware, he also has 2 other amplifiers that are even more powerful. He's got a Behringer NX6000 and a clone of the Mohsen FP220K, but those are already in use powering his subs. So his main question, if he were to just keep using that single speaker wire, could he do a mix and match setup where he continues using his pair of ButtKicker LFE and then adds some of the smaller ButtKicker Advance and or ButtKicker Mini LFE units? Compared to the ButtKicker LFE, the Advance and Mini LFE have significantly different and lower maximum power ratings. So should he only use the same model of ButtKicker for all seats if they're going to be connected to the same amplifier channel? So what you're talking about is mixing and matching based how you're running these. Again, they're not drivers, but they're essentially, they
are transducers. That is absolutely
units,
a correct word
right?
to use, yeah.
So you would mix and match running them in parallel in series so that your impedance doesn't get out of control one way or the other. Yep. The problem, of course, being that you're going to be, in theory, with different capabilities as far as maximum power input, and maybe they have different impedances too, which is, you can still do the calculation on it and figure out.
These are all rated as a 4 ohm nominal load.
Dang it, dude!
As far as that goes,
why do I have to keep hitting the stupid microphone? I talk with my hands too much. So even if they were different impedances, you could figure it out, what the impedance
from
would
like
be at
an
the end.
electrical safety for your amplifier point of view.
The real question that would bother me, and the question that you would have to figure out for if this is worth it for you, is if you mix and match these things, they not only have different maximum power ratings, but they're also going to be different as far as how I don't have a ButtKicker. I don't know how these things work exactly, but I assume that they have some sort of setting on them for how much output they're, how loud they are.
There's no adjustment for that.
So they're just straight up. So that means
they're just
that some of them
relying on the volume output, the trim level plus volume control from your preamplifier, from your AV receiver.
So if they're not all identical, they're not all going to be some are going to be shaking not as much as others, and others will be shaking more than. You would have to pick some volume from your AV receiver that would be the best of both worlds. Some would shake too much, some would not shake enough, and you would say, if you don't want to like to shake and sit in this seat, but if you want more shake and sit in this seat, that's what you would end up with.
Yeah, it's akin to taking a single speaker amplifier channel and connecting 2, 3, 4 different speakers, where those speakers all have the same impedance, but they have different sensitivities. Yeah. Right. And now you're going to result in some of those speakers are simply playing louder than others. So some of these butt kickers are going to be shaking more violently than others if you mix and match. That isn't necessarily a terrible thing. You're not really in too much danger of, as long as you do a combination of series and parallel wiring, working out so that the impedance lands somewhere. I mean, honestly, with the amplifiers that you have, somewhere between a 2 and 4 ohm load would actually be optimal. They're completely stable, those Behringer amps, down into a 2 ohm load, but you wouldn't want to go lower than that. And you could quite easily. You just wire 4 butt kickers in parallel and you're down to 1 ohm. So don't do that. Do a combination of series parallel. But my inclination is that if you want better, more predictable control about how strong the sensation of physical shaking is in those seats, I kind of would want to have the same model of butt kicker for each amplifier channel. Now, I don't know if you're already using the second channel of that Behringer NX, 3000 that he's currently using?
Yeah,
like
3000.
If that second channel is available, then continuing, you could actually power 4 of the ButtKicker LFE off of one channel. That won't give you maximum headroom output, but like you said, one of these attached to one seat is complete overkill. You don't need to get anywhere near its maximum output. So that's viable. You could get 1 or 2 more of the ButtKicker LFE if you want to do that. But if you're going to get advanced or mini LFEs, I would stick to one or the other. I wouldn't do a mix of all 3 models. And then if that second amplifier channel is available, you could absolutely, say you got a bunch of mini LFE units, connect them to the second channel of that NX3000, and that will be okay. Just do some series parallel wiring. But I probably wouldn't mix the full-size ButtKicker LFE with the mini LFE, both powered off of the exact same channel. So, there's however you manage to run that wire the first time, there's going to be some additional physical work of running the speaker wire for the second channel, but I would advise doing it that way.
Yeah, but what he said was the full-size butt kicker is is more than he needs for one seat.
Yeah.
So you might consider just putting those up on eBay or
right.
whatever, selling those and get the smaller ones for each individual seat.
I would suggest, if price is not the completely limiting factor here, I'm not a huge fan of the mini LFE. To me, you can bottom those out. It's not that hard to bottom out the mini LFEs. They're pretty darn good for a desk chair setup, which is almost what they were meant for. They were meant for a gaming setup where you've got a gaming chair, and that's what the mini LFE goes for. But they don't really dig right down to 20 hertz. They don't really have enough output to them for a theater recliner, in my opinion. The Advance is a very reasonable compromise. The LFE is overkill for a single seat. The Advance does really nicely. So if you were to get, maybe you want 4 or 6 out of your 8 seats to have them attached. If you were to do that with ButtKicker Advance, you could run all 4 or 6 off of the exact one channel of your NX3000 that you have right now, some series parallel wiring involved, and you'd be totally fine.
Yeah. At what point would he need a bigger amp? Could he run into trouble trying to connect too many butt kickers? As long as you keep the impedance under control, using, like Rob said, that thing's powerful enough to connect a number of them without doing anything special. But you can, run some in series, some in parallel to keep the impedance under control. I don't think you're going to run into any problems here.
Not really. If you had 8 ButtKicker LFE, the full-sized ones, I wouldn't run all of those off of one of the NX3000's amplifier channel. You could honestly kind of run all 8 of them off of both channels if they're available. You'd be missing out on a little bit of headroom, but you don't need the headroom. They're overkill. So yeah, unless you're going beyond 4 full-size on a single amplifier channel, you don't need to upgrade.
Yeah. Lastly, Drac was running a sale during Black Friday. Did Rob take advantage of it in order to add Drac to his Dane A1H?
I did not. I actually held to my own self-imposed restriction of until I'm fully ready to actually run the thing, I'm not going to go ahead and buy it, even though I'm like, there's a deal. I could get it at a deal and then have it sitting around and waiting for however long it takes me to get to it. I'm like, nope, I'm actually going to wait to buy the thing. So I did not. I held off.
Good for you, Rob. Scott built his full home theater system largely based on our advice nearly 10 years ago now, but he has been spreading his passion for putting together and configuring home theater systems to other rooms of his house over the years. His goal is to give Infinite Gary a run for his money. Good luck.
Yeah, good luck.
So including the dedicated home theater system, he now has 3 Dolby Atmos setups in the house, and he wanted to share some of the things he's done before getting to his questions. So in the dedicated theater, he has changed from his Epson Home Cinema 3500 projector to the LG Cinebeam HU810 dual laser projector. Having that frame-by-frame dynamic tone mapping for HDR has made a big improvement, he says. He switched over to an Apple TV 4K for his streaming services. He reconfigured his 9-speaker setup of SVS Prime Series speakers, 1 SVS PB2000 and 1 PC2000 sub, and a Yamaha Almontage RX A2050 receiver so that it's a 5.2.4 configuration rather than 7.2.2. Those were all AVRant recommendations, and he still enjoys them just as much now as the first day he listened to them.
Hooray!
He added some Dayton tactile transducers for extra fun.
There you go.
Okay. Out on the patio, he installed a the Tariffs outdoor TV. They love to call things the.
They have a the in front of all their things. So Samsung.
The Terrace outdoor TV and some outdoor speaker depot speakers. Out of everything, any guest that visits his house seem to envy and be impressed by this system the most because people have terrible taste. The living room got 65-inch Samsung The Frame TV and a Yamaha sound bar. His wife absolutely loves The Frame, and he refuses to watch it, and I don't blame you.
It's not a good TV.
I know. By all accounts. Even people who really don't know what they're saying, why is this TV not very good?
Yeah, it's a kind of dim, kind of crummy looking, edge lit matte screen TV, but some people love it because of that artwork.
So they set up a games room for the kids. It's got a 77-inch Sony 80K OLED and a Sony 1080 receiver. The speakers are DefTech Mythos Gem XLs in a 5.1.2 Atmos configuration. He has to admit the Sony OLED with the Sony receiver works extremely well and easily together. And if he's being honest, this is probably the best audio-video experience in the house. He's a bit envious that the kids get to use it way more than he does.
The dedicated theater is beat by the kids' gaming room.
I know. That's what happens with CEC. If you get all devices that are the same manufacturer, it works. But if you get anything else, it doesn't.
Also, 5.2.4 configuration. He's like, but the 5.1.2, it sounds really good.
Yeah. In his office, he's got a 65-inch Samsung S95C QD OLED that he paired with a Samsung S800D Atmos soundbar. He added on the optional wireless surround speakers, so it's a true 5.1.4 configuration. He mostly uses it to play Switch 2 games, but he also has an NVIDIA Shield Pro and a Panasonic UB820 Ultra HD Blu-ray player in there. And he wanted to note that all the TV purchases were done from Woot.com, and he got great deals and highly recommends them. Yeah, I used to religiously check Woot. I don't do it anymore. So question time. He wants to bring his office setup to the level of the kids' game room. He's happy with the Samsung S95C QD OLED, but the Samsung soundbar isn't truly a fully satisfying experience to him. It's decent, but it isn't wow. But some of that might be due to the fact that he hasn't been able to fully adjust all the soundbar settings. To adjust the settings, you have to use a Samsung SmartThings app. But following a power outage that happened one time while the soundbar was on, he's never been able to get it to connect to the SmartThings app ever again. Samsung's customer support has been terrible, so he's left at a bit of a loss there. So the ideas on that front to begin. The S800D soundbar is supposed to be able to pair with the S95C's built-in speakers using Q Symphony, but he's never had the chance to get all that working or even try it. So he wants to connect the soundbar to the TV speakers? Is that what I'm reading there?
You can, yeah. You can have it so that the TV built-in speakers like augment the sound from the sound bar. It's not exactly replacing the center channel because the sound bar is still there below the TV, acting as center and left and right. But yeah, you can do the thing where the built-in speakers augment using acoustic. Like, he might not like it. It's just like it was a feature he wanted to try, never got to because the stupid SmartThings app won't connect to the sound bar anymore. It did at one point, but power outage happened and it never worked again. So, I mean, I'd have difficulty believing that Samsung's customer support never told you to do a full factory reset, because that's basically step number one. But there is a little bit more to it than that. You would need to do a full factory reset on the Samsung soundbar. How you do that without the app? Because I'm not 100% sure. I think that's one of those ones where there's actually like a little indented button that you have to access in order to do the full hardware reset on that soundbar. There's definitely that on the subwoofer, but I can't remember if the soundbar itself actually has that version of doing it. But you'd need to do that, but you would also, honestly, to get this working, I might suggest on whatever mobile device you're using to run the SmartThings app, like completely delete it off of that device.
Yeah.
Re-download the app, but then create a whole new Samsung account. Don't even log into your existing Samsung account. I'm not saying you never will, but I'm saying in order to get that soundbar reattached to the Samsung SmartThings app, you got to factory reset the soundbar and then load the SmartThings app as though it were the first time you've ever done so, create a whole new account, and now they should hopefully find each other. And I don't think a Samsung customer rep would ever tell you to like create a whole new Samsung account or delete their app. My goodness, they will never tell you to delete their app, even if it's only temporary. So that could be some of the issue there. I'm betting he already thought of that stuff because he's pretty darn tech savvy, and I don't think I'm saying anything new here, but on the off chance that you were like, oh, yeah, I never really thought to just create a whole new Samsung account, because why would I? Maybe that'll be helpful to you. But also, who knows, maybe the Wi-Fi chip in that soundbar burned out when the power outage happened, and you literally just don't have a Wi-Fi signal going to that thing anymore.
Yeah. I guess that's... I wouldn't know anything else to do other than factory reset and start over again. So, yeah. So back during COVID lockdowns, he built himself a pair of DIY Dayton Tri-Trix bookshelf speakers that had 5.25-inch woofers and a 1-inch soft dome tweeter with white cabinets. He thinks they still sound great, so he's kept them in his office, positioned to either side of his TV, but he exclusively uses them to listen to music. He uses an old Dane 3310 CI receiver to power them.
Why are they recessed so far back on that TV stand? Why are they pushed way back there?
Looks better. Push them forward. He did decide to try using them to play his other source devices. The Samsung QD OLED can actually output both its HDMI audio return channel, and its optical output simultaneously, so he can actually have his soundbar and this pair of DIY bookshelf speakers playing all at once if he wants to. I don't know why you would, but you could.
Yeah, I mean, I guess he was trying to like mimic the Q Symphony thing in a little bit of a way, just to see. I mean, what he was saying is he's not wowed by that Samsung soundbar, so he's like, so can I take what I already have and augment it? You know, that's clearly the thought process.
Augment it into the garbage can. He also has an Rory 8K eARC HDMI audio extractor on hand, so every option in terms of connections is available to him. Since his Samsung soundbar has never wowed him, he's been toying with various upgrade ideas and like our suggestions. Okay. So should he simply upgrade the S800D soundbar to a higher-end Samsung soundbar, such as the Q930 or Q990, he should be able to continue using the same wireless surrounds that he already has, and maybe the SmartThings app integration has gotten better and more stable in recent years. I don't know if that's even... I don't know if that's the case. So that makes more sense now why he wants to keep using the soundbar, because if he stops using the soundbar, then he loses his surrounds.
Right.
So, okay, I kind of understand that, but at the same time, I'd rather have, I would just, I'd get rid of the soundbar and the surrounds. Okay. I'd push the speakers forward so they're at least in line with the front of the cabinet, if not a little bit proud of it. And then I would just use the stereo if it were me, maybe a receiver.
I'm the person out here on YouTube and in the podcast sphere where I'm like, I see all the the constant reviews, the top 10 lists, the Samsung soundbars, they're always at the top of all those lists. And I'm like, they're definitely better than the TV's built-in speakers. 100% they're better than that. They're better than a lot of other soundbars out there. I still don't think they're that great. Like, they're so skinny. There's only so much you can do. They're trying to fire their sound out at all kinds of bizarre angles, especially that Q990 that claims to be like a 13 point something, channel system, and it's got tiny little 1.25 inch drivers firing sound out at all weird angles. It's like they're just not that great. I'm not a gigantic fan of them. That's the end of that. So I don't think it's worth the money to just get a higher end Samsung soundbar. That's not what I would do.
I don't think so either. Should he just enhance the 800D sound by simultaneously using his DIY Dayton speakers along with them? He's never really been sure how to properly level match that scenario. Can we advise? I advise you not do it. I would just, you've got good speakers on hand, or literally you've got speakers on hand. I don't even think they have to be that good, and they're going to be better than the sound bar. So let's just do that. And you're in an office, so
it is.
How many people do you need a center channel?
Multiple other immersive audio systems in the rest of the house.
Yeah. So he says, should he just ditch the soundbar stand up entirely? Yes. And replace it with a 5.1 or 5.1.2 setup using the Dane 3310 CI and Dayton bookshelf speakers that he already has on hand.
Yes.
Yes. Do that.
Yep.
But I don't necessarily think you have to have a 5.1.2 or anything like that in here. But if he does, he's got a budget of around $2,000 he could spend, which speakers would go nicely with his Daytons. He's been considering RSL, Ascend, and the HCM 200 SE2s in particular, and mono-price audition speakers. He'd be looking to add a center and a pair of surrounds, possibly front heights as well. And if they could come in handy, if they could come in white, so much the better. Although only coming in black is not a deal breaker. So what do we think? I don't know why we need anything but above 2.1. Now I would take those Daytons and pair them with like an RSL.
I mean, that question's coming up about subwoofers, but I'm in full agreement with that assessment. Yeah.
I don't really. You've got the stands, you've got the receiver. You could get something for the surrounds, and your surrounds are already based on this picture that you have here. If I'm looking at it correctly, they're pretty small, anyways. So
yeah, those are the wireless Samsungs. They're certainly nothing large.
You could just get some SVS. Surround, Prime surround.
Well, that was just like he mentioned. He already has his main home theater is already SVS Prime series, but I get the feeling he just kind of wants to try something a little bit different.
Well, good NHTs, I guess those will be small too.
NHTs could work. You know what? I didn't even think of that, and that could work really darn well. Would be some NHT Super Zeros. That's actually a fantastic solution. They don't come in white. That is one minor drawback. But he's like, becoming only black is not a deal breaker. Yeah, that's a fantastic solution. I was thinking that as far as my familiarity with those DIY Daytons, the speakers that came to mind to me of being like, hey, those are a really close sonic match, like one that I wouldn't bat an eye at being like, hey, those work really well together, are the ELAC debut speakers. Which I think is another very reasonable. Like all of the ones he mentioned are like he's keeping an eye towards price, right? You got $2,000 budget, so we can't go insane with the price. But the ELAC debuts are definitely not going to break your budget. They're right in line with the rest of these, and I would feel very comfortable. Yeah, I like the NHTs. That's a great suggestion. I like the ELACs as well. So both different from the list that you had there, but certainly ones we've mentioned before, not going off the beaten path for AVRant, and I'd be very comfortable with those.
Like 4.1. Is what we're at this point.
You could.
So if he ditches a soundbar, do we think he should upgrade his Dane 3310 CI receiver? It can't do any of the latest video standards. Doesn't have HDMI audio return channel, which why would you need it?
Well, because if you're plugging all of the video sources directly into the TV, then you might want to have audio return channel to send it back downstream to the AV receiver.
Yeah, I don't know why you would do that. But anyways, but he does already have the Rory HDMI audio extractor, so physical connections are not a problem, but he would be limited to Dolby Digital 5.1. Which AV receiver would make the most sense to buy? I mean, we've been talking about Onkyo's and the 3800H. The 3800 is way overkill for this situation.
Or the RZ30 is the one in the Onkyo lineup. 3800 is the Denon. But
that's what I'm saying. For the Denon, the Denon 3800 is overkill for this.
Oh, yeah.
The situation that you have here.
I'm not telling you to spend a gigantic portion of your $2,000 budget on an X3800H from Denon.
I am going to say, honestly, that I don't necessarily think you need to upgrade your AV receiver, other than for convenience.
Yes, the convenience
I would not do it for audio
sources. Yeah.
To get it, he's like, oh, all I can have is Dolby Digital 5.1. That's fine. It
really is.
You don't need anything else. The speakers are like essentially slightly further away from your ears than headphones. Let's just not worry about whether or not you need overhead speakers. The speakers are right there. So and you're the only person in the room most of the time, if not all the time. So you can position them exactly to make the best audio experience for you, which can be very 3D at times. So I would if it were me, I'd just stick with the receiver you have. And then once you upgrade, decide to make another upgrade someplace else, then migrate with your other receiver, which has some of these other features that you're interested in, down here at a later time. Rob's going to give you his opinion and maybe go on to the next question.
I sure will.
Go to the bathroom.
Okay. So I gave it away a little bit there, but I was thinking like he already has a mix of different brands of AV receivers in this house. I get the feeling with the choices of speakers that he suggested that it's like, he kind of likes to experience a variety of recommended, but ones that he hasn't owned before. So that's why I was like, I didn't hear you say you have an Onkyo AV receiver, and I think that could actually make a ton of sense in here. Honestly, the one that makes sense is I've mentioned how there's the TX NR7100. That one stops at 9 speakers total. That's the maximum, but all 9 speakers would have to be powered by the NR7100 itself. It does not have any pre-outs. You absolutely do not need any pre-outs or separate amplification in this small office setup. And since you can get the TX NR7100 from Onkyo at accessories for less for $650 right now, I'm like, I would stop at 5 physical speakers. We're going to add the single subwoofer. You could afford to get the NR7100 within your budget if you went with the NHT or the ELAC speakers that we suggested. And then you can do the Dolby Atmos height virtualization with full 4 overhead speaker virtualization and DTS. What do they call theirs? Their Virtual X. It is, right? DTS Virtual X. Similar thing if it's a DTS soundtrack. I don't think you need physical overhead speakers in here. I think 5 physical speakers would absolutely be the stopping point. So yeah, we can say, there is the TX RZ30. Accessories for Less is selling that for $800. So it's only $150 difference. And the RZ30 does give you the full set of pre-outs, plus the RZ30 can be upgraded to use Dirac Live bass control if you want to. That's an add-on charge. But the NR7100 comes with Dirac Live room correction, the full range version, with a microphone that already works with it if you're using the Dirac app on your smartphone to do that setup. But it cannot be upgraded for Dirac Live bass control. So if the option to upgrade to Dirac Live bass control and having a full set of pre-outs is worth an additional $150 out of your, somewhat limited budget, then, that's where you would say, okay, yeah, I do want that RZ30, and $800 is a great price for it. But yeah, I think $650 for the NR7100 is where I would point you if you get a new AV receiver, which is not a necessity, but that's where I'd point you. So lastly, he asks, which physically small subwoofer would we recommend? He's thinking about the SVS 3000 Micro or their SB 1000 Pro. He's thinking about the RSL speedwoofers, the 10E and the 10S Mark II. He's also looked at Monoprice's Monolith 8-inch THX certified model. A speedwoofer all day long. I would spring for the 10S Mark II because I want full 20 hertz extension. And the 10E doesn't quite get you there, but the 10S Mark II does. So looking at the price points, looking at the sizes, looking at getting right down to full 20 hertz extension in this very small room, RSL Speedwoofer 10S Mark II is the sub I would get all day long. It comes in white as well. So
there you go.
Great option.
Comes in white. I need to figure out what I'm going to do for subwoofers in my home theater immediately. Trevor, to begin with, we should be aware that Trevor is visually impaired, so dealing with Denon's on-screen menus is a bit cumbersome. He uses the web interface for his Denon X4 4200W. 4200. That's a little bit.
It's going back a little ways. It's the W as well. It doesn't even have HEOS.
Yeah. On his computer instead whenever possible. In the past, he had no trouble adjusting the distance for his setting for his subwoofer, but for some unknown reason, for the past year or so, all he gets is a message saying the new distance he has entered is not valid and he can't make his desired change to the subwoofer distance setting. It's a 5.2.2 speaker configuration, and he has Odyssey turned off. He got his wife to try using the on-screen interface, but even just trying to change one of the subwoofer distance from 23.8 feet to 23.9 feet resulted in the not valid message. So do we have any ideas how to fix this annoyance? 23.8 to 23.9. I'm surprised it will let you go that granular in that.
Yep, it's 0.1 foot at a time. 0.1 foot is the.
I guess I haven't touched that setting in so long.
You can change it over to metric, where it'll let you adjust it in 0.01 of a meter at a time.
I always did set it in metric because of that. I think it works out to be more granular.
It
to
is
go
slightly
metric
more granular.
than it is.
That's right.
Yeah.
You're doing it in
I have no idea how to fix it. Rob, how do you fix it?
Yeah, so I think this is due to a somewhat strange, but it's just because of the processing capabilities that we had at the time and how much of a time difference this thing allows between any given two speakers, or speaker and subwoofer, or two subwoofers to each other. There actually is a note right in the X4200W's manual that states that the difference between any two speakers has to be less than 20 feet. You can't have a greater distance difference between any two speakers or subwoofers than 20 feet, even though you can set the maximum distance of something as being as much as, I think it's 60 feet. Yeah, from 0 to 60 feet is the maximum scale that goes on there. But you could not have one speaker that's set at a 10-foot distance and then another speaker that's set at a 30.1 foot difference. The maximum would be one set at 10 and one set at 30. It's 20 feet is the maximum difference. So that just leads me to question, he has a 0.2. He's not using Odyssey, so I think he's using the dual independent subwoofer settings that it has. Did you perchance set subwoofer 1 to a distance of 3.8 feet? Like maybe it's right beside his couch. And he's like,
right.
By the tape measure, that subwoofer is 3.8 feet away from me. Set subwoofer 1 to there. And then he's trying to do the thing of, changing the physical distance setting so that you get the phase relationship, right? You're doing the phase adjustment between subwoofer 1 and subwoofer 2. So he's trying to change it. It can let him get up to 23.8. That's the 20-foot difference. But he tries to go to 23.9 or any more, and it just says not valid. But that is if you've exceeded that 20-foot maximum gap that any two speakers are allowed to have between each other. That's about all I can think of. Because he's like, I was able to change it before, but I'm like, but were you changing it to a, subwoofer 1 versus subwoofer 2? The difference between their two distance settings was less than 20 feet before, and now you're just trying to go beyond that, and it's telling you, I can't do that. It's not valid. It does mention in the manual, can't be more than a 20-foot difference. That's the only thing I can think it is.
I would never have thought of that.
Right.
In a million years. Ilango. Ilango watched Audioholic's Perlisten for Atmos YouTube video with Gene and Matthew Pose. Obviously, anyone who is seriously considering Perlisten in-ceiling speakers for overhead speaker duty is already working with a different budget than most mass market consumers. But Ilango was curious to hear our reactions to the rationale given for saying that expensive overhead speakers that closely match the capabilities and timbre of your front speakers are worth it. He's heard us say a lot. I'm gonna add that in there. A lot, often and repeatedly, that it's perfectly fine to skimp on your overhead speakers and surround back speakers in particular. But Matthew Pose was explaining how you might have a scene where something like a tank is visually running right over your point of view, or fighter jets fly directly overhead. As far as the mixing goes, the overhead channels and objects can be every bit as full range as he sounds coming from the front. Mm-hmm. So if you want maximum immersion with no sense that the sound changes at all when it moves from the front speakers into the overhead speakers, then your overhead speakers need to closely match your front speakers in every way. And that's when expensive, highly capable in-ceiling speakers make sense and are worth it. Also, They talked a bit about aiming your overhead speakers. Again, he's heard us say just to use regular in-ceiling speakers and have them pointed straight down, but Matthew explained that the seats farthest away from the overhead speakers might be way off axis. So even just when you're measuring, and even when you're just measuring to apply room correction, if you don't consider seat-to-seat variation in the dispersion of the overhead speakers, your room correction system might attempt to overcorrect those speakers and boost the high frequencies too much. So we vouched for the angled baffles of the Perlisten in-ceiling speakers as being advantageous since you can aim them via those built-in angles. What's our response to all that? You should not watch the YouTube video, this YouTube video, because my poker face for this question is not great. Okay, I will tell you right now, the amount of disgust that just washed across me as I had to read that tripe was extensive. Let me collect myself for a second here. Okay. Let me just say that when you have to caveat so many things in order to make your point is by definition invalid. You might have a situation where there might be this in the movie, then you might be able to hear this. I make a lot of statements
that have a ton of caveats in them.
What's that?
I said I make a lot of statements that have a ton of caveats in them, although I usually do couch it in the, if you want to get super pedantic, then here's all the caveats that are involved. I typically couch my language that way. And look, to be fair, so did Matthew Pose, right? I'm a little bit less angered by this, maybe because I watched the video and Tom is going by the written description of it.
Yes, that's true.
So look, nothing Matthew Pose said was wrong. Like
I am not going to disagree. I'm not going to disagree with what you just said. Okay. Nothing he's saying is technically incorrect.
Yeah,
I'll leave it there. Go on.
Yep. Yeah. But yes, it is a lot of caveats. I've sort of come around to the whole angle your overhead speakers for two reasons. One, everybody just wants to do it, and honestly, audio-wise, it's fine. Like, go ahead, angle your overhead speakers. It's not going to be a detriment. And since everybody desperately wants to do it for some reason that I don't entirely understand, I'm like, yeah, go ahead. It makes you feel better. It's going to be perfectly fine. But the other reason is yeah, there are the scenarios where, say you get an overhead speaker that has a folded ribbon tweeter, and the dispersion is definitely not plus or minus 30 or 45 degrees. And look, if you're building the sorts of theaters that Matthew Pose is building, they are considerably larger and considerably wider than the type of home theater that I'm building on a personal level. And therefore, yeah, if you want very even dispersion from your overhead speakers over the entire seating area, which is now, 7-8 seats wide, I would personally angle my in-ceiling speakers, because the cone of dispersion, if those speakers are to the outside physical edges of those wide rows of seats, they are not going to have all of the seats within the cone of dispersion of those overhead speakers. You'd need to angle any in-ceiling speakers to have the cone of dispersion evenly cover those speakers. So, absolutely, technical level, I agree on that front. I can see where he's coming from. For the argument of, the timbre, the output capabilities, everything needs to be really similar to your front speakers because of those certain scenes where there's a transition of sound, and it's like when a sound, pans from your left to your center to your right, and you don't want the timbre to change. Again, not technically incorrect, but I'm just going to argue from pure real-world experience, oh my goodness, does it barely matter what speakers you put above you. It's just, nope. I'm sorry. I don't agree that it's a transformative, amazing experience to have the jets fly overhead and have the timbre not change at all. I'm like, it happens so infrequently. It's for such a short duration. The mixers care so little about what they do in the overhead speakers that, if they make sound.
If it were in a vacuum, you might be able to hear and notice that there's a massive... any timbre difference, right? If it were in a vacuum. But guess what else is happening as the tank is going over your head or the fighter jet is screaming above your head for 1.2 milliseconds, right?
Yeah.
There's a ton of other sound coming out in the room at the same time.
From other speakers in the room.
Just stop it.
Yeah.
And yes, I understand Matthew Poe in particular is like Rob's saying, is dealing with a different size theater than what most people are dealing with. And I agree that in those theaters, sure, it makes some sense and maybe even is advisable that you would have angled in-ceiling speakers, but
and
that's not.
More capable. Like when your theater is 30 feet high and 45 feet wide and 50 feet long, like you're gonna need some better in-ceiling speakers for your Atmos than what I'm putting
they're
in my
20 feet away from your ears at the minimum.
In my 12-foot by 15-foot by 8-foot room, I don't need that type of capability from the in-ceiling speaker. So yeah, there's a whole bunch of very much it depends. But yeah, nothing he said was technically wrong. But yeah, I think it's completely overblown. I'm definitely at the point where I'm like, you don't need physical overhead speakers. Use the virtualization. Sounds remarkably good.
I just can't anymore. You know what I mean?
Yep.
You know, it's just so unimportant that we get the objectively best thing constantly. Like objectively, it is better to have 6 overhead speakers than 4 overhead speakers. It's objectively better to have 2 overhead speakers than 4 than 2. It's objectively better 2 than 0. Objectively. It's objectively better to have 7 speakers on the ground or 9 speakers for all you front wide freakazoids who want to have all these speakers on the ground, right? It's objectively better to have that. But subjectively, how much of a difference does it make? How much of a difference does it make that you have a speaker that's in the surround back position? Subjectively, how many times are you going, oh, I heard it make a sound, which it will sometimes do, but I notice that there's a hole in my sound there.
Sure.
Because I notice that there's a hole in my sound right now. Okay. I notice that because I only have a technically 3.0 system, right? But not only that, I noticed that I never ran any sort of room correction because I know somewhere in this world my SPL meter survived. And I'm trying to find it because I want to do it. I want to do a level matching, right, with my 3 front speakers, but I haven't done that yet. So you know what happens? Every once in a while, my AV receiver will switch itself, or actually I think the Apple TV 4K switches itself into a surround mode, and it puts all of the dialogue into the center channel, and the center channel is not level matched with everything else. So the volume goes insane. Like you can't hear people speak, and it's wildly loud. The music, the background music is wildly loud. And it happens all the time when we're watching Saturday Night Live. And it'll just switch. I'll have to go into the Apple TV 4 and force it into stereo mode so that sounds normal again. How many times are you sitting in your theater and thinking to yourself, wow, this is, I have to actually stop what I'm watching to try to fix what I'm hearing because of how bad it is, or fix what I'm not hearing because of how bad it is. And the reality is, if you have a 5.2 system, you are never doing it. You're never thinking, oh, that helicopter doesn't sound like it's coming from above my head, because it does. Now, could it sound like it's coming from a little bit more above your head if you had speakers up there? Yes. But you're not saying that sounds like it's coming from below me. Oh my God, that sounds completely wrong. You're never saying that. No, so why are we killing ourselves and spending all this money?
Totally at the point of focus on good 5.2 speakers. The physical speakers, get good 5.2. Then I'm like, I know it sounds a bit strange, but get a 9-channel receiver. And it's like all the money you saved on not buying more speakers and subwoofers, you can afford a 9-channel receiver and do the virtualization. I'm like, that to me is now the optimal immersive audio system in terms of maximum value, bang for your buck, overall experience. I've totally landed that solution.
All right, where are we in the time?
Yeah, I mean, we're under 2 hours, so I'd love to get 2 more, maybe 3.
Yeah, at least one more. Darrin is making a completely necessary upgrade. He's going from a mere 2 24-inch DIY sealed subs in his living room to 4 of them. And he says, don't give me that look, Tom. Don't look at the freaking video then, because I am.
I'm just showing some images.
I do
from
appreciate the cats.
The DIY build.
They're
There'll be some kitties coming up when we see the actual living room setup. But this was a DIY build. He did a nice job on the exterior veneer of these.
He absolutely did. I will give him that. I will give him that. So he's continuing to use the same GSG audio flat pack cabinets that he used for his first 2 DIY subs. In those first 2, he used the one audio HT24 drivers with 2 ohm impedance, but those drivers are not available anymore. Well, burn them all. So he did his research, and the closest match he can buy today are the Mach 5 AWE24 drivers, but they come from Canada, and he is in the United States, and then there's tariffs, and everybody hates us.
Well, this is what he's asking.
What is he in for as far as tariffs and tariffs and import duties go? Would these drivers qualify for an exemption under the USMCA trade agreement that is technically still in place? The company does say that these drivers are hand assembled in Canada, but surely the materials and some components are of foreign origin, and the advice would be appreciated. Nothing is made 100% almost. If you're not making a very simple product that has no electronics or moving parts in it, then it came from another country.
There are all sorts of carve-outs and exemptions, though.
Yeah,
so the answer that I have to give is I don't know for certain. Do not take my word as gospel in any sense on this. My advice would be, can you contact Mach 5 and just ask them, because they'll be familiar with whether or not there's going to be a tariff charge for you as a United States customer ordering from Canada. So that would absolutely be the way to go about things here is get in touch with them. I don't know if they have like a full-on customer service. Many times, sort of manufacturing companies don't really have that for like end user customers, but they've got to have an email address that you can reach out to somebody and ask them to get a proper answer as far as that goes. But what I can offer is that companies, Canadian speaker companies like Paradigm, like Axiom in particular, they've been on some other podcasts. They've mentioned how because they do enough of the manufacturing of their speakers in-house, Paradigm and Axiom Audio do, that their speakers do fall under the still in place USMCA agreement, or as we call it in Canada, CUSMA, because we put Canada first in that initialism.
Fair enough.
But when they do still fall under that trade agreement, they've been able to do cross-border shipping without all the massive increases in tariffs and duties. And that's been an advantage. Like, honestly, Axiom, if you're buying in the States, Axiom speakers, even though they haven't lowered their prices, they've actually, because everyone else has had to raise their prices, suddenly become a pretty darn good value in speakers again, as Axiom. It's kind of remarkable. Accidentally, yes. But because they didn't have to raise their prices with all of the tariff goings on. So it is certainly reasonable to think that these drivers might be exempt because they're not just a pure import. They are actually assembling these woofers in Canada. So yeah, get in touch with them directly if you at all can. Ask them directly, but it is reasonable to think that there's a decent chance that you will be exempted from the ridiculous tariffs that are happening at the border now.
All right, Nelson. Nelson owns a JVC NX5 projector, and he has enjoyed it very much on this 120-inch 16:9 screen. But even as a projector fan, he can admit his next display upgrade will almost certainly be a large flat panel. The number of conversations I've had to have with people who know that I'm kind of in this industry about the TVs that you walk past, because Sam's like stocked up on TVs for Black Friday, and they're all still there. It feels like you're just walking past like stacks of flat panel TVs, and they're like, "I saw one there that was 65 inches, and it was $386." I'm like, "Yes, it was." Could be. So naturally, he'd love a 115-inch OLED, but since those don't exist, he's been having to look at the flagship TCL models, such as the QM9K and the X11K. The thing is, those top at 98 inches, but if he wants a 115-inch TV, he has to drop down to a lower series in the TCL's lineup. So what's going to be the actual best upgrade for him? Do any of these TCL LCD TVs have the black levels that are as good as his JVC NX5? I'm going to say that they're wrong.
I got good news for you on that front.
I got good news for you on that front. Let me just tell you right now.
Yep.
One Rory Asage right there. That's not going to be a problem. Nope. No offense to Projector users. I know you guys all think your Projector is the best.
JVCs are as good as it gets.
It's great. Anyways, obviously they'll be much brighter, but overall, would we say that any of the available 115-inch TVs are a genuine upgrade over his NX5 on his 120-inch screen? I'm going to be dead honest with you, my man. I know there's something about men and the size of things that just flummoxes me. Like, why does everything, like, if the number is bigger, it is by definition better. It is so easy for you to justify a flat panel TV coming into the room a little bit and negating the difference in size from 120 inches down to even 98.
Like field of view from 120 to 98, you'd need to get your eyes 2 feet closer to the screen. Now, if you get the TV 1 foot off the front wall and you move your seats 1 foot forward, you've done it.
It's not even that hard to do that. With a piece of furniture, you could go 1.5 feet.
Yes,
and
then 6 inches closer on the seats.
And then 6 inches on your seats, and you're there. And even if you don't go the 6 inches on your seat, you're just like, well, maybe it's a little bit smaller, but you don't want it any closer anyways because it's so bright. But yeah, it is so easy to get that same or very similar field of view and save a buttload of money. But now, you've already spent a bunch of money because the NX5 is not inexpensive projectors. Well, like what, $7,000?
Yeah. When that came out, I think it was MSRP of $5,500, that one, but it was a $5,000 projector for most of the time was the NX5. Yeah. Because that was still lamp-based back then. The NP5 came out after it, right? So it was the predecessor to the NP5, was the NX5.
Yeah. So, yes, it'll have better black levels because some of these pixels are going to turn off. You know?
So, I mean,
it's going to have lots of local zones of dimming.
Yeah, you can't.
And it's going to be much brighter.
Entirely escape blooming, but the TCLs have done it. They've done a really good job. So here's where I'm going to maybe surprise you a little bit in hopefully a very good way. I think the very best TCL series of TVs that is available right now is the QM8K. The QM9K is kind of well, let's just throw everything we've got at this thing. It's over brightened. Like the PQ EOTF tracking for HDR, it's not as accurate. The QM8K is like perfectly accurate. The QM9K over brightens everything. The QM9K is like, everything's juiced up on it. It's just like everything's, it's the Samsung thing. You know, it's the Hisense thing. It's kind of their answer to Hisense. Everything's juiced up, but it's inaccurate. The X11K was like literally their experimental one. It's like, we're going to throw all the zones of local dimming in here, but it has some like weird issues in actual playback because it's the experiment. It's the prototype that they're just, sort of selling to the public. So if I were going to get a TCL 98-inch today, I would get the QM8K. Like, I'm not even saying that because of price or value or anything. I think it's the best 98-inch TV that TCL is selling today. That all said, I don't mind the idea of, hey, I don't want to, sacrifice my seating distance whatsoever, and I want to have this thing wall mounted at only 6 inches physically closer than my current projector screen. The 115-inch is a viable idea, and you're going to be like, well, the only current 2025 model that TCL is selling as a 115-inch is the QM7K, because that's the only brand new 115-inch that TCL brought out this year. And I would hesitate. I'd be like, I'd rather sit 2 feet closer to a 98-inch QM8K than go with the QM7K for the massive delta in price. There I am considering price a little bit, but I'm just like, QM8K looks better than QM7K. But you can still get, I know it's going all the way back to the crazy year of 2024, but you can still get the 115-inch QM891G. Value Electronics would be absolutely the best place to go and get that because they work directly with TCL manufacturing and it is built to order. You order through Value Electronics, they get in touch with TCL and they're like, hey, build us a 115-inch QM891G unit, and TCL will do it for them. Now, the price on that is $15,000. So, given that you can get a 98-inch QM 8K for under $4,000, that is a massive price delta for 1.5 feet of physical distance. But that's the way I would go at it. So, if you're going to get the 115, get the QM891G from Value Electronics. If you're okay with the 98-inch, I get a QM 8K, and not because I don't think the 9K is affordable.
Yeah. Lastly, we'll do Dane. First up, Dane just wanted to share how happy he is with this TCL 98-inch QM 851G.
The direct predecessor to the QM 8K. There you go. And essentially the same as that 115-inch 891G, because they just changed that 851 to 891 specifically for the 115-inch size.
He thinks it looks significantly better than his projector. And did we have any idea that when you go from a 106-inch projection screen down to a 98-inch TV, you can just position the TV about a foot in front of the physical front wall, and now the viewing angle looks exactly the same? We really ought to mention that to people sometime. Yeah. We should. Yeah. Thanks, Dane.
Yep.
But in all seriousness, out of the box, the TV is incredibly bright. Like, honestly, just too much so. Mm-hmm. He had to adjust the light output down quite a bit in order for it to be comfortable, but that was easy enough, and no concerns at all if the TV is down to half brightness. 20,000 hours from now, it'll still be plenty of bright if that happens. Yeah. You could just turn it back up a little bit.
That's right.
Now for his questions. That's what we call headroom. That's actually might be
really
usable
is.
For you someday. Yeah. Unlike your amplifier.
And yes, they are I have to squint to look at this TV bright. It is, I absolutely have to turn that backlight setting down significantly.
So his questions here. He was gifted 2 ButtKicker LFE tactile transducers along with the ButtKicker amp, but unfortunately the amp is broken. So, have you ever heard of Fosi audio?
For the LFE, that's getting a little bit.
Which replacement amp would we recommend as a suitable substitute since a ButtKicker amp is out of stock and not available to purchase right now?
Yeah, I got a great answer for this.
Are those 4 or 8 ohm? 4 or 2 ohms? These ButtKickers.
The actual ButtKicker LFE is a 4 ohm. Okay. So with the ButtKicker amp, they actually recommend you wire those in parallel because the ButtKicker amp is perfectly stable into 2 ohms, and it can deliver about 1,500 watts into those 2 ohms if you're wiring 2 of them in parallel. So plenty of power there. But that ButtKicker amplifier has always had reliability issues. Those things burn out and break down so frequently that, honestly, whether you could get a ButtKicker amp right now or not, I would suggest that in its place, you get the Dayton Audio SA1000 subwoofer amplifier. This is essentially one of their 1,000 watt into 4 ohm subwoofer plate amps, but they just put it into a regular rack mountable chassis instead. That's all that's really going on here. I would suggest getting this amplifier to power ButtKicker LFE units regardless. This is my number 1 choice for doing it, and it costs less. So that's the pretty easy recommendation right there.
Just generally speaking, for tactile transducers, you just want to look for a subwoofer amplifier. And even if it's just like a literal subwoofer plate amp. Yep. Right?
Oh, yeah.
That's perfectly fine. It doesn't have to be in a box. Yeah. Just throw it underneath the couch and let it go. Do its thing. So he asks, how important is it to undo the Odyssey correction on the subwoofer output? He's using a Denon X1600H, and he can't really see his way to upgrading to a 3800H just to get the dedicated tactile transducer output.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I agree with that too. He could see his way into getting a miniDSP 2x4 HD, though, and he already has Room EQ Wizard. So is it really critical, and would he need to show us his measurement curve so we could help him figure out what to apply to his tactile transducer output to undo Odyssey? First of all, my understanding is that Room EQ Wizard will do that for you.
Like not purely automatically, but yes. Actually, what we're going to do, I'm going to link back to a specific timestamp in a previous AVRant episode, because we were actually informed, helpfully, by one of our listeners, Jay, of a really ideal way to undo the Odyssey correction that's on your AV receiver's subwoofer pre-out. It does require a miniDSP 2x4 HD, but that is nowhere near as expensive as getting a new X3800H, and it's a very useful device, just all on its own. So just to quickly summarize, I'll link to it so you can go through the full explanation that Jay provided us. But the idea is the miniDSP 2x4 HD, it has a USB connection. So you can plug that into your computer that's running Room EQ Wizard, and now that allows you to do basically a feedback loop, right? So you're going to have the HDMI output from your computer, feed your AV receiver. That's where the signal is coming from. Room EQ Wizard is providing the signal. That signal is going to come back in to the miniDSP via your AV receiver's subwoofer pre-out, and then the miniDSP 2x4 HD can feed that Odyssey corrected subwoofer signal back into your computer via USB, and now Room EQ Wizard can compare those two things, because it was sending out a ruler flat sweep, and then it got back what Odyssey did to that sweep. Right. And now it can be like, there's the difference. You invert the Odyssey curve, and there's your EQ curve to now apply to that very same subwoofer output on the miniDSP 2x4 HD. So you don't even have to look at the graphs. You just have to physically wire things up, invert one of the signals that gets read, and that becomes your EQ curve for Room EQ Wizard to apply.
The other thing to remember in this case is not all room corrections room correction versions do much to the bass, that's that loud, much to the subwoofers. So in your case, I think it does, but we've had plenty of room correction versions out there that really don't do much to the subwoofers anyway. So
that's very dependent, right? It's very dependent on your setup. Yeah. I would say it's reasonably important to undo that Odyssey correction, because it's not that difficult to bottom out tactile transducers. It's not that difficult to have the response feel significantly uneven. If it's doing a significant cut to a big hump in your subwoofer's audible response, if it's doing a significant boost, trying to fill in a dip, it's like you can definitely notice that in your tactile transducers. So given that a miniDSP 2x4 HD, they're not as cheap as they once were, and I wish they were, but it's not unreasonably expensive to get that. And given that you can do this sort of feedback loop in Room EQ Wizard that you already have, I think it's a pretty reasonable thing to say, yep, that's a good idea.
Okay. At this point, I've forgotten the question because I've been scrolling around trying to get back to where we're.
that was all of it.
So who do we have left?
We have left on our list Rory and Nick and Ash. So
if your name was not read off,
right,
and you asked us a question in the last, I guess, month,
or
maybe a little bit more, or at all, ever.
Yep.
And you never mentioned, we never answered your question, or you don't remember us answering a question, send it to a question at avrant.com.
That is absolutely.
If you have a new question, send it to question at avrant.com.
Question at avrant.com. That is the way to get in touch with us. It seems to be working now.
Yeah.
We've had plenty of emails come in via that email address, but yes, please try us again. I'm convinced there are still others, because there's no way that everybody who sent in a question that got lost in whatever mysterious thing happened, saw or heard last week's episode already. So there we go.
All right. We want to thank our listeners of the week. We want to thank Dane and Andrew for going to avrant.com and clicking on the Buy Us a Cup of Coffee link and sending us a PayPal donation, as well as our 122 patrons over at patreon.com.
Yeah, Dane and Andrew, thank you so much for those PayPal donations. And patreon.com/AVRant podcast is where you can go to sign up to make an automatic monthly donation. So big thanks to our 122 patrons over there.
I also thank those who sent in notes of gratitude, including Mohsen, Kevin, Scott, Glenn, Ilango, John, Nelson, Dane, Rory, Yanick, and Ash. Thank you for thanking us.
Yes, indeed. I'll say the names one more time. We got Mohsen, Kevin, Scott, Glenn, Ilango, John, Nelson, Dane, Rory, Yanick, and Ash. Thank you all so much for those notes of gratitude and encouragement. We really appreciate them. And a big, big thank you to everybody who continues to listen and send in your questions.
Again, send them in to question@avrant.com. For AVRant, I'm Tom Andry.
And I'm Rob H. Now go out and listen to something.
Want your question answered? Send it to question@avrant.com. This is AVRant.
Now go out and listen to something.